Gold tycoon in America in 1850. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51: The Commodore's Arrival. Vanderbilt personally steered the James Day into the port of San Francisco. His steering skills were very good, and the captain was not just a nickname for him. In his early years, he often steered and drove the boat to transport passengers on the routes of the Raritan River and the Hudson River. He was a veritable old captain. From sailing ships to steamboats, and from steamboats to steamships, he had personally driven almost all the ships that could be driven. Since the routes in New York waters were monopolized by several old aristocratic families, the Livingston family and the Fulton family, he often had to evade the police and play cat-and-mouse games with the police in New York waters, so he developed a superb boat-driving skill that was widely praised by passengers. After the James Day anchored in the berth area, the three steamships behind it followed closely and anchored in the berth area of the port. Although countless merchant ships came to San Francisco, a place full of opportunities every day, it was the first time that three steamships of more than 1,000 tons appeared in the port at the same time. People on the shore understood that this was a big man from the east, and they couldn't help but stop and watch. In addition to the family's second son Connie, sixth daughter Louise, seventh daughter Elizabeth, and son-in-law Clark, Vanderbilt also had several old friends in the circle. For example, shipbuilding expert Jeremiah Simonson, steam engine manufacturer Theodore Secker, and his fellow countryman neighbor Daniel Van Dazer and assistant John Nigel. 2 years ago, Vanderbilt and these old friends in the circle raised $216,300 to establish the California Shipping Company, and ambitiously set out from New York to California, hoping to make a difference and create a world. Connie was among them. Vanderbilt stood on the New York dock with full of expectations and reluctance and waved goodbye to Connie, who was traveling far away for the first time. He hoped that his son would surprise him when he returned. Later, Connie did return, but unlike what Vanderbilt imagined, Connie came back with a debt. The captains and sailors sent by other shareholders were also unreliable. They tricked Connie into selling the ships of the California Shipping Company, including the Sacramento produced with new technology, to squander in casinos and brothels, and finally disappeared from the face of the earth in California. This time, Vanderbilt and his old friends decided to go to California for an inspection. They wanted to know how much development potential California had in the future and whether it was worth their investment. "Guys, this place is more lively than we thought." Vanderbilt squinted his eyes and stared at the busy dock. Everything was so orderly at the busy dock. There was even a warehouse on the dock that provided storage services for shipping companies, and the storage area was still under expansion. It can be seen that the owner of the dock is a very ambitious person. Assistant Nigel carried a large suitcase and followed Vanderbilt closely. Before arriving at the port of San Francisco, he was still worried that the small port of San Francisco would not be able to berth their 4 steamships of more than 1,000 tons. Now it seems that he was worrying too much. With the current port conditions in San Francisco, it is no problem to berth large ships of 2,000 tons. He is also a very visionary and courageous person. Vanderbilt did not hesitate to praise him and gave a positive evaluation of the owner of the port. He was proficient in maritime affairs and knew how much cost and risk would be required to expand the port rashly, and that the cost could not be recovered in the short term. Few people were willing to make such a thankless investment. People are more willing to invest effectively in places with quick results and high returns, such as the stock market. He himself invested a lot of money in the New York stock market. It's just that the stock market is not doing well now, and a lot of his money is stuck in the stock market. Mr. Vanderbilt, welcome to San Francisco. The head office of the Bank of China has moved from Sacramento to San Francisco, and only a branch is retained in Sacramento. Jones, the president of the bank, also moved his office from Sacramento to San Francisco. Jones saw his old friend Nigel among the group of people. He guessed that the tall and hairy man in front of Nigel must be the famous Commodore Mr. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt did not know the stranger in front of him, and his assistant Nigel hurriedly introduced him to Vanderbilt. "This is Jones, Mr. Vanderbilt. I mentioned him to you. He is now the assistant of Liang Zhao, the richest man in California, from the assistant of the richest man to the president of the bank, my old friend." Jones smiled. He hoped to stay with Liang Zhao as an assistant, but it was a pity that Strauss took his job. And Strauss's ability was obviously better than his. It seemed that he had no chance to return to Liang Zhao as an assistant. Is it the 19-year-old millionaire? I am very interested in him now. Please take me to see him, Vanderbilt said with interest. He started his business at the age of 16, but he became a millionaire after he was 30 years old and did business on the Hudson River. Becoming a millionaire in less than half a year is a miracle no matter where you are. Thinking of this, he glanced at Connie with regret. Connie's eyes were fixed on the prostitutes soliciting customers at the port. He didn't realize that his father's angry eyes were staring at him. I have informed my boss of your arrival, but my boss has been busy with the hospital these days. You came earlier than we expected. He asked me to invite you to his manor and express his apologies to you, Jones said nervously, and then he observed the changes in Vanderbilt's expression. A small Western millionaire is so arrogant? He's showing off in front of Mr. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's son-in-law felt neglected. He said very dissatisfiedly, Father-in-law, we don't have to pay attention to him. He is just a nouveau riche. He doesn't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is after having a little money. In New York, we are also nouveau riche in the eyes of those old nobles. Vanderbilt didn't care. You go to Mr. Liang's manor first, and I will go to the city to take a look. Father, I will go with you. It looks very lively here. Elizabeth was very interested in the commercial street not far from the port. The streets there were very wide and looked very clean. The stalls on both sides of the street were filled with all kinds of goods, boxes of coffee, barrels of food, and even neatly arranged bricks and stones, as well as a variety of hats, blankets, cloth, tents, and various tools. These are not what Elizabeth is most interested in. These goods can also be seen frequently in New York. She is most interested in the various handicrafts sold by Indians, Chinese, Maori, and Indians. These things are not common even in New York. Of course, my dear daughter, Vanderbilt's attitude towards his daughter was obviously much better than his attitude towards his son, and the anger in his eyes was replaced by doting. He and Elizabeth walked towards the bustling commercial street together. Chapter 52 Elizabeth wore a low-neck dress with ruffles and floral patterns, and a slightly tightened goose-down ribbon set off her slender waist. She inherited her father's excellent hygiene. Her height of 172 centimeters, coupled with the high heels hidden under the hem of her skirt, made her taller than most American men of that era. Her facial features were very three-dimensional, with a straight nose and a small and cute chin, which made people want to pinch them. The most attractive thing was her pair of pure and clear eyes, like the purest and flawless crystal in the world. San Francisco lacked women, but it was not that there were no women. It was just that most of the women who came to San Francisco were prostitutes. It was the first time that a girl like Elizabeth, who was pure and charming, appeared on the streets of San Francisco. Soon, she became the most dazzling star on the street. She was like a magnet with strong magnetic force, attracting the attention of countless men. If it weren't for Vanderbilt, a 6-foot-tall, 183 cm, strong man standing next to Elizabeth, it's hard to guarantee that these horny guys would have improper thoughts about Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you are 17 years old this year, and it's time to find someone who likes you and can protect you. Your sister Louisa and Shepard were married at the Episcopal Church of Hongdao at the intersection of Madison Avenue and 35th Street when they were your age. Vanderbilt took out a Cuban cigar from his left chest pocket and put it on his lips, then reached into his trouser pocket to grope for matches. Are you talking about those young men in New York who do nothing all day and hang out at banquets of the elites of the upper class? I have no interest in those hypocritical, greasy, annoying people. My sisters followed your arrangements and joined the rich and famous, and every time they came back, they hugged their mother and cried. I don't want to live a boring and torturous life like my sisters in the future, and I don't want my mother to cry for me. Elizabeth liked a beautiful silk ribbon with beautiful patterns she had never seen before. She picked up the ribbon and tried it, using it to fix her hat, and skillfully tied a beautiful bow under her chin. The color of the ribbon matched her brown hair and yellow hat very well. She was very satisfied, but she thought the price of the ribbon was a bit expensive, costing $7, and you know, her monthly pocket money was only $8. Of course, she was much luckier than her brothers and sisters. Her mother told her that the eldest sister Louisa's monthly pocket money was only $2 or $3. And the eldest brother William Henry only had a pitiful 70 or 80 cents. Perhaps it was because their father felt guilty and wanted to compensate them, so after arriving at Coney, the brothers and sisters had more pocket money. After bargaining, Elizabeth finally made the deal with $7, and the seller also agreed to give her a small silk ribbon as a hairband. This made her feel very accomplished, and she showed off her achievements to the people around her. "Do you think I have the same talent for business as you?" Vanderbilt finally found a match to light his cigar. After taking a puff of the cigar impatiently, he said with regret, "If it were me, this deal could be completed at least for $3, or even lower." At this moment, a hurried man bumped into Vanderbilt, lowered his head and apologized to Vanderbilt repeatedly, interrupting Vanderbilt's words. Vanderbilt subconsciously touched his pocket, and he quickly reacted. His wallet was stolen again. This was a conditioned reflex formed after he was pickpocketed countless times in New York. Seeing that the pickpocketing behavior had been exposed, the pickpocket quickly quickened his pace and tried to blend into the crowd and escape. Unfortunately, before he could run a few steps, Vanderbilt had already rushed up, clamping his shoulders with a pair of strong and rough hands. "Hey. Hello, Mr. Thief with no eyesight, you stole my wallet." Seeing that the situation was not good, the pickpocket hurriedly threw the wallet he had just stolen to his companion, who was waiting beside him. He turned around and wanted to wrestle with Vanderbilt. When Vanderbilt was young, he had fought a lot in order to compete with competitors for passengers and popular routes. It can be said that the routes he operated in New York were won by his fists. Sailors and crew members are rough people. It is impossible for them to sit down and negotiate calmly like hypocritical gentlemen to divide the small cake. When encountering contradictions and conflicts, fists are the most effective way to solve them. In New York, he is one of the best fighters, so much so that before the fight started, the other party heard Vanderbilt's famous name and gave up the passengers and routes obediently. Because in this way, he doesn't have to lie in bed for several months to recover from his injuries. The skinny pickpocket was daydreaming if he wanted to break free from Vanderbilt by force. Vanderbilt's iron fist soon hit his face. Before the pickpocket could react, he was hit by Vanderbilt again on the chest and lay on the ground in pain. Vanderbilt took out a revolver from his waist, put it against the pickpocket's forehead, and wanted to take him to the local police station. "Sir, is this your wallet? I'm very sorry that your wallet was stolen here. It's our fault." Three people in strange uniforms appeared in front of Vanderbilt. They had a badge on their chests with a bear pattern on it. Their Oriental faces were extremely rare in the eastern United States. With his many years of experience in the underworld, Vanderbilt judged that they should be members of the local gang. Such civilized and responsible gang members are rare in New York. He opened his wallet and saw that the US dollar bills and banknotes were all there, so he took out a few gold coins from the gap in the wallet to express his gratitude to them. "Thank you for your kindness, sir. We appreciate your kindness. We have our own rules and codes of conduct. We cannot accept money or property from anyone in private." The leading gang member shook his head and stammered in English with a strong Oriental accent to express what he wanted to say. "It's not worth losing your job for a few gold coins and dollars. Are you Liang Zhao's men?" The gang members with Oriental faces made Vanderbilt naturally associate these gang members with Liang Zhao. He guessed that the existence of these gang members should be related to the fact that people in gold-producing places like San Francisco have not completely lost their minds and still maintain the order that a civilized society should have. Sometimes gang members have an incomparable advantage over the police in managing Social Security. Vanderbilt felt this deeply in New York. However, gangs are a double-edged sword. If used well, they will be of great benefit to you, but once out of control, they will also bite you back. "Are you talking about our leader?" The leading gang member recognized Liang Zhao's name and thought that this foreigner didn't even know the relationship between the Loyalty Society and the leader. He must be a foreigner who had just arrived in San Francisco. "Yes, I heard that he is in the city. I want to meet him. Please lead the way for me," Vanderbilt said in a tone that could not be refused. Although Vanderbilt was dressed simply, the members of the Loyalty Society had seen the thick dollar bills in his wallet, and thought that he was not an ordinary foreigner, so they agreed to Vanderbilt's request. Chapter 53, First Meeting with Vanderbilt. The cholera in California was far more serious than Liang Zhao had expected. New patients had been sent to the California hospital in San Francisco over the past week. The number of cholera patients admitted by the hospital was not more than 2,500 or 3,000, but 4,600. Such a large number of cholera patients far exceeded the carrying capacity of his temporary hospital. Liang Zhao had to expand the scale of the hospital and allocated 4 more shops and a warehouse to the hospital to accommodate cholera patients. At the same time, he advertised in the newspaper to recruit more volunteers to assist doctors in treating cholera patients. The hospital was full of cholera patients who were vomiting and having diarrhea. Doctors in white coats and volunteers wearing Red Cross armbands shuttled among the patients. They either checked the patient's conditions or gave them medicine and fluids to relieve their pain. The air was filled with a nauseating smell of feces, urine and vomit. Although some people cleaned up these dirty things in time to ensure the cleanliness of the hospital and reduce the number of mosquitoes and flies, the smell could not be removed in a short time. Fortunately, his efforts were not in vain. Dr. Robinson, the general manager of the hospital, brought Liang Zhao good news. Today is the peak of cholera. After today, our patients will gradually decrease. Robinson, wearing a white coat, walked through the long corridor with statistical data and walked towards Liang Zhao. Dr. Robinson, let's go out and talk. The atmosphere here is too depressing and the smell is too strong. As you wish. I feel like I have lost my sense of smell after so many days here. Robinson shrugged and said. Liang Zhao walked to the door, took off his mask and breathed in the fresh air greedily. The mixture of salt water and this sugar water can indeed help the gastrointestinal tract absorb water. This is a major medical discovery. It will save the lives of thousands of cholera patients. Robinson could not hide his excitement, and even his tone of voice was excited. Stop, just talk about our current situation. Liang Zhao didn't have time to argue with him now. Vanderbilt had already arrived in San Francisco. Vanderbilt was very important to him, and it was related to his next layout in California. He had to hurry back to see Vanderbilt. In addition to Vanderbilt himself, he also hoped to get to know some entrepreneurs in Vanderbilt's circle through Vanderbilt, and exchange gold for their technology and machinery. These things were what he urgently needed. He was not sure about Vanderbilt's attitude towards California and him. The possibility of becoming a partner with a rising industrialist like Vanderbilt was much higher than that of becoming a partner with the old nobles in the East. Of course, it was just a higher possibility. He had to make the worst plan for everything. His worst plan was that he could not reach a cooperation with Vanderbilt, and a direct conflict of interest broke out with the old nobles in the East and California. At that time, if he wanted to develop industry in California, he could only buy a limited number of non-advanced machinery and some outdated technology from the small and medium-sized enterprises and companies in the East that were about to go bankrupt. As for Fremont, his family background was quite solid, and he was willing to contribute to the development of California. He was the first American to come to California. He became famous because of California and had a special feeling for this place. However, Fremont is a well-known plantation owner in Georgia in the southeast. He owns thousands of hectares of cotton fields. It is okay for him to grow cotton in California, but it is undoubtedly a fantasy to let Fremont engage in industry in California. Liang Zhao has no system and no void warehouse. He can't just rub the steamship by hand and then take out a bunch of awesome machines from the void pocket to crush the natives of this era. After thinking about it, Vanderbilt is still the most ideal partner. He must seize this opportunity. At present, 138 severe patients have been transferred to the moderate patients area, and 583 moderate patients have been transferred to the mild patients area. As for the mild patients area, 421 cholera patients have recovered and they can be discharged tomorrow. So far, only 16 severe patients have died. It can be said that this is a miracle. California has done what big cities like New York and Boston have not been able to do. After speaking, Robinson didn't care about the dirt on the ground and sat down directly on the spot. He was really too tired. For a week in a row, he slept less than 4 hours a day. Even in his dreams, he often dreamed of patients who were on the verge of death and asked him for help, which woke him up suddenly. I think California's experience in preventing and treating cholera can be extended to the East. If the East can do the same, cholera will soon disappear from the United States and will no longer be an epidemic that people are afraid of. Things are not that simple. The situation in the East is more complicated than in California. There is no politics in California, but everything in the East is political. Moreover, cholera in California has not been eradicated yet. It is too early to say victory. We can't take it lightly. Robinson's idea was still too simple, but he didn't have time to talk to Robinson anymore. Dr. Robinson, I have to receive Mr. Vanderbilt these 2 days. The hospital affairs are left to you. Please. After speaking, Liang Zhao patted Robinson on the shoulder and said goodbye to Robinson. Before he took a few steps, a small leader of the Loyalty Society wearing a gold and black bear badge came to inform him that Vanderbilt had arrived at the hospital gate. Liang Zhao didn't expect Vanderbilt to come here to find him, so he had to go out and meet Vanderbilt. The lights were on, and the street lights in the hospital and the streets were lit with whale oil, dispelling the darkness. Vanderbilt and Elizabeth, father and daughter, stood under the street lights, and next to them was a rather unsightly slogan with slogans in English and Chinese saying farming and farming, no entry for idle people. Vanderbilt was very tall. According to statistics, the average height of adult white men born in the United States in 1850 was 171.1 centimeters. And Vanderbilt, who was 183 centimeters tall, was much higher than this standard. Vanderbilt's clothes were more casual. His arms and legs were long and strong, and his hairline was relatively high, but he had thick brown hair. Perhaps because of the sea voyage, his beard had not been shaved for some time, and he looked a little sloppy. He has thick lips, a strong chin, a pair of sharp eyes under his high forehead, and a long, pointed nose like the bow of a sailing ship. Liang Zhao's first impression of this man is more like a captain, a sailor or a soldier, rather than a successful businessman. Vanderbilt is far from the image of a successful businessman in a suit and tie that Liang Zhao had in mind. "Hello, Mr. Vanderbilt. I didn't know you came here in person. I'm sorry for not welcoming you." Liang Zhao took off his gloves and shook hands with Vanderbilt. "Hello, Mr. Liang. I heard a lot of rumors about you when I was in Nicaragua." Although Vanderbilt was born in Staten Island, New York, USA, and is a Native American, perhaps influenced by his parents, his words carry a faint Low Dutch accent. This is one of the few Dutch marks on him. Vanderbilt tightly clamped Liang Zhao's hand, as if he wanted to compete with Liang Zhao to see who is stronger. In the past 6 months in California, Liang Zhao has paid attention to dietary matching and physical exercise. His physique is no longer the physique of the weak scholar. Since Vanderbilt wants to wrestle him, he will fight to the end. Special thanks to the monthly ticket sponsor Wenjinhan and Jerksinawan Dizapian for his monthly ticket support. Thanks to Moyan, Binge 1009, and Zheojiakalin for their monthly ticket support. It's another week of streaking. Please give me a recommendation ticket, although this thing can't affect the results of catching up, but it can cheer me up. Chapter 54, Shoulders of Giants. Although Vanderbilt was 56 years old, he was still very strong. Liang Zhao's hand was a little painful because of Vanderbilt's clamp, but he still pretended to be calm and persisted. I wonder if Mr. Vanderbilt had other intentions, or if he liked to shake hands with everyone in this strange way when he first met them? People in later generations had mixed opinions about Vanderbilt. Some people regarded him as an American hero, while others denounced him as an American scum. But evaluation is subjective, and facts are objective. No matter how it is evaluated, it cannot change the fact that Vanderbilt changed the American society in the 19th century by himself. Before Vanderbilt, no American had ever done this. As for the old aristocrats like Astor, perhaps the assets they now have can still be compared with Vanderbilt, but they have only changed the fate of a family, not the entire society. And these families focus on real estate investment. In essence, they are still big landlords who are officials and businessmen. They are only responsible for sucking blood, not for making blood. Their existence is a stumbling block to social progress. Even if these old families and big financial groups drive up the land prices in New York to higher than the land prices in the whole of Britain, it cannot change the fact that the United States is now lagging behind Britain. It will only increase the cost of living of the American people, and finally cause public resentment and shoot themselves in the foot. What really pushed the United States to the top of the world was the advanced factories that sprang up like mushrooms in the United States during the Second Industrial Revolution, and the industrial products that were continuously manufactured in the factories. Only industry is the cornerstone of a great power. This is true for Britain, the United States, the Soviet Union, and any future world hegemon will be like this. Even Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and Morgan, who were richer than Vanderbilt, regarded Vanderbilt as their predecessors and humbly claimed that they had achieved these achievements by standing on Mr. Vanderbilt's shoulders. Undoubtedly, he is the most successful representative of the American dream of this era. It presents to the world how a poor Dutch descendant can rise from the bottom of society to the upper class in the United States through his own hard work, a script similar to a cool article. Although the so-called upper class still refused to accept Vanderbilt, they had to admit that Vanderbilt's wealth and the huge shipping empire had a huge influence on the United States. "Father, your old problem has come back again." Elizabeth rolled her eyes at Vanderbilt, breaking the awkward handshake. Vanderbilt laughed heartily and patted Liang Zhao on the shoulder a few times. "You are quite strong, young man. You are more like a captain or a sailor than a businessman. I will have someone prepare a carriage for you and this lady." Liang Zhao put his hands behind his back and moved his painful right hand out of Vanderbilt's sight. "No need, the road conditions here are very good. We will walk all the way to your manor. Let me introduce you, this is my daughter Elizabeth." Vanderbilt introduced Elizabeth to Liang Zhao. "Hello, Miss Elizabeth, nice to meet you. I am also very honored to meet you, Mr. Liang. I have seen many reports about you in the newspapers. And those newspapers without exception describe you as a rude thug and an uneducated upstart." Elizabeth pinched her small minivan, pouted her lips slightly, and looked at the light under the street lamp curiously. She really couldn't think of what words to use to describe the man in front of her. At least from the appearance and behavior, it is difficult to give him a suitable label. He is gentle, dressed casually like his father, and rude, but he is polite and well-mannered in dealing with people. "At least you look more gentle and well-educated than my father." This made Liang Zhao laugh a little, and Vanderbilt also glared at Elizabeth unhappily. Although Vanderbilt dropped out of school at the age of 11 to work and had little education, a person's cultivation cannot be linked to his education level. However, it is true that Vanderbilt has a strong habit of the underworld, which is one of the reasons why the upper class in New York sneered at him. "Honestly, the situation in California is better than I expected. There is indeed a lot of potential here," Vanderbilt said with a vigorous step, while walking side by side with Liang Zhao towards the Tingtao Garden on the seaside. "It's not that there is a lot of potential, but California is the future of America. If you invest $1 here, you will get $10 or even hundreds of dollars in return in the near future. The Nicaragua route you open will also bring you at least millions of dollars in revenue every year." Liang Zhao was not exaggerating. The Nicaragua route helped Vanderbilt get through the more difficult years of his life in the 1950s. This route can bring Vanderbilt at least millions of dollars in profit every year. The gold in California gave the United States the opportunity to stand on the stage of the gold standard and compete with Britain, and defeated the two largest silver empires in the world, the Qing Empire and Spain. He had already started planning the route from New York to Nicaragua to California 2 years ago, and established a deep friendship with the leaders of Nicaragua and several surrounding Central American countries to pave the way for this. Based on Vanderbilt's high emotional intelligence and money ability, what Vanderbilt says in these countries is more effective than the White House. One of the secrets of Vanderbilt's success is his keen business sense and always one step ahead of others. However, no matter how good his vision is, he can't stop his son from cheating him, which has led to the fact that his route has not yet been completed. "But I don't have a monopoly on this route. There are 7 large shipping companies competing with me on this route, and there are countless small and medium-sized shipping companies, but this is not the most critical." Vanderbilt's face showed a trace of worry. Although Vanderbilt was already one of the richest men in the United States at this time, and his shipping empire was also famous throughout the United States, he had not completed the monopoly of the U.S. shipping industry. Vanderbilt had to wait until the mid-1950s to completely complete a monopoly of the U.S. shipping industry. In the shipping field, he still has many powerful competitors. The existence of these competitors forced him to slow down his pace of entering the railway transportation industry. Are you referring to the Pacific Mail Steamship Company that monopolizes the Panama route? At this time, the information Liang Zhao had collected at a huge cost came in handy. Pacific Mail Steamship Company was one of Vanderbilt's strong competitors. It was not a shipping company with a long history. In fact, Pacific Mail Steamship Company was only established in 1848, and its purpose was to specialize in the New York-Panama-San Francisco route. It stands to reason that a newly established shipping company would not pose a threat to Vanderbilt, the shipping tycoon. But the Pacific Mail Steamship Company was backed by the United States Postal Service, which had a strong government background, and the company's shareholders were the wealthy aristocratic consortiums in New York, and these consortiums did not deal with Vanderbilt. This was the source of Vanderbilt's concerns. Pacific Mail Steamship Company later obtained the franchise for routes from the United States to China and Japan. The Chinese workers who built the Pacific Railway were transported from China to the United States by the Pacific Mail Steamship Company's ships. Until the 21st century, Pacific Mail Steamship Company still existed, but it was renamed American President Lines, APL. How do you know this? Vanderbilt was surprised. He didn't expect that in California, where information was blocked, there were still people who knew that the Pacific Mail Steamship Company, which had just been established, had a monopoly on the Panama route. His interest in Liang Zhao also grew stronger and stronger. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Circle. Vanderbilt stopped, took out an unsmoked cigar from the inner pocket of his jacket and handed it to Liang Zhao, then struck a match to light the cigarette for Liang Zhao. Liang Zhao subconsciously stretched out his hand to block the sea breeze to prevent the sea breeze from blowing out a match. Let's sit down and talk. The scenery in California is so beautiful. Vanderbilt's eyes glowed brightly. He sat on the ground facing the sea, watching the tide of San Francisco Bay ruthlessly hitting the coast. He took out the cigar that was only 1/3 smoked from the outer pocket of his shirt and held it in his mouth. I didn't expect Mr. Vanderbilt to be so frugal. You reminded me of a friend of mine. His name is Grandit, but in my opinion, you should be a more generous and more structured person than him. Liang Zhao puffed out smoke towards the sea, and he couldn't tell whether Vanderbilt was frugal or stingy. Grandit sounds like a French surname. Since you said I look like him, your friend must be a miser. I am a famous miser in New York. Vanderbilt didn't care about other people's comments about his stinginess. He continued. I have a little money, but every cent of mine should be spent where it should be spent, so that it becomes more valuable in my hands. Tell me, if you were me, what would you do in the face of these damn competitors? Let them go bankrupt. Even if the management of Pacific Cruise Lines and other shipping companies are determined to fight you to the end, the shareholders behind them have a very limited tolerance for losses, Liang Zhao said slowly, and your shipping company has the final say, and you have an absolute advantage in the shares you hold. As long as you are determined to make them bankrupt, I think these are not a problem. Vanderbilt wanted to monopolize the route from New York to California, and the best way was to drag the other party down through a price war. Liang Zhao used this simple and crude method to defeat Brannon at the beginning. The simpler the method, the more effective it is. Vanderbilt smiled knowingly. Liang Zhao's words touched his heart. Sometimes, if you want to make more money, you must first lose money. He has also used this method to defeat many competitors. Price war is his most powerful fist in the market. Just like you defeated Brannon, right? Vanderbilt seemed to see himself when he was young. When he was young, he was very courageous and didn't have too many concerns. But after the industry became bigger, he seemed to be a little hesitant. It's not exactly the same. Brannon is just a countryman with a unique vision. Those powerful politicians in New York have more means than Brannon. Liang Zhao stood up and patted the dust on his buttocks, and continued to walk towards Tingtao Garden. The overall layout of Tingtao Garden remains the same. Liang Zhao just built some Chinese-style pavilions and towers on its basis to embellish Tingtao Garden. It's just that most of these pavilions and towers have not been completed yet, so the garden looks a bit messy. When he arrived at the restaurant, Vanderbilt didn't see Connie for a long time. He seemed a little angry. He could think about where this kid is now. But soon, he put the matter aside and started chatting with his old friends. Liang Zhao prepared some specialties from Guangdong and Fujian for them, but he didn't have authentic ingredients and the cooking skills were average. But it was enough to deal with Vanderbilt and others. Anyway, they had never eaten Chinese food, and these dishes were enough to satisfy their curiosity. In order not to embarrass them, Liang Zhao very considerately prepared silver knives and forks for them. Everyone praised these dishes that they had never seen before. Vanderbilt drank some wine and was a little drunk. Seeing that the Mexican maid who served the dishes had a hot body, he stretched out his hand and pinched her butt, which made the Mexican maid horrified. All the people present were Vanderbilt's friends. They were already used to it and just laughed. Elizabeth apologized to Liang Zhao helplessly. I'm sorry, Mr. Liang, my father is such a person. He is also like this when attending New York high society parties. He can't control his hands and mouth. Liang Zhao was a little surprised. Isn't Vanderbilt too unrestrained? Wouldn't this guy be so drunk that he forcefully kissed the hostess? He had been thinking about whether to let the male servant serve the dishes. Spitting and spitting tobacco juice on the brand new Persian carpet, Elizabeth curled her lips and opened her mouth. Due to my father's rude behavior, when Sister Louise got married, Few celebrities came to the wedding to bless her. My father was very angry and felt very embarrassed. Liang Zhao smiled and responded, "Things may not be as simple as you think. There are often many reasons why the upper class hates someone." Liang Zhao looked at the people at the table and found that he didn't need to prepare tableware for them at all, except that Louise and Clark had more formal meals. Vanderbilt and his guys all grabbed the dishes directly with their hands. Perhaps this is the circle that belongs to Vanderbilt. I hope you don't mind. They are just like this. I don't welcome these uncles to my house for gatherings at the moment. Elizabeth pointed to a clay pot with a knife and fork and asked Liang Zhao curiously. She had never seen such food before. "How do you eat this?" Liang Zhao used a spoon to serve Elizabeth some soup and a few pieces of sea cucumber and abalone from the Buddha jumps over the wall. Mr. Liang, I heard a lot of rumors about you when I was in Nicaragua, but I don't know if these rumors are true. Liang Zhao had just put the bowl in front of Elizabeth when he heard Clark's malicious voice. He had found some letters from Brannon in Tingtao Garden, including several letters with Clark, in which the two discussed some business cooperation matters. He guessed that Clark might have ill intentions towards him for this reason. Mr. Clark, if you have any questions, just ask directly. I heard that you killed Mr. Brannon and many of his men. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the law? Or do you think California will always be a lawless place? Elizabeth felt that her brother-in-law's question was a bit too much and was about to speak to stop her brother-in-law, but Vanderbilt spoke first. Although he drank a lot of wine, he was still very conscious and rebuked Clark harshly. "Clark, please be careful about your words and actions. Since Mr. Clark is so curious, I will tell Mr. Clark now that the laws of the United States will shine on every inch of the territory of the United States." Liang Zhao stood up and answered Clark's question. "Brannon and his men broke into my house with guns. For my personal safety and property, I had to take up arms to defend myself. Sheriff Flagg was also present at the time. I think the law will not punish a good citizen who abides by the law, otherwise it will lose its due justice and authority. I wonder what choice Mr. Clark will make when faced with this situation." Clark failed to make things difficult for Liang Zhao, but was defeated instead. He was speechless and lowered his head to eat the food on the plate in silence. Special thanks to Meng Beast for the 1,500 reward, and thank all the friends who voted for support. Tomorrow's follow-up reading data will determine the recommended position this Friday. This is the last chance. I hope everyone can support it. Thank you very much. I will try to contribute another update after finishing the work at hand. Chapter 56, each with his own agenda. After the banquet, Liang Zhao asked the servant to take Vanderbilt and his party to the cleaned guest room to rest. Vanderbilt did not say anything else except asking Liang Zhao to send someone to bring Coney back from the brothel. Strauss found a US dollar bill and an IOU from the box. The bill was a $60,000 bill from Citibank with Coney's signature on it, and the IOU was also a $60,000 IOU with Coney's signature on it. The date of the bill and the IOU were both February 8, 1849. Mr. Coney owed the casino $60,000. Liang Zhao interrupted Strauss before he finished speaking. "These things are useless to Mr. Vanderbilt. After you find Coney, you can go to rest. Tomorrow we will accompany Mr. Vanderbilt to visit the mine in Sacramento." Strauss put the bill and IOU on Liang Zhao's desk with great care, walked out of the study and gently closed the door. Liang Zhao took out his pipe and smoked it. "Vanderbilt is here, so how far can other consortiums be?" Gwynn and Fremont, two ambitious politicians, have gone to the east to lobby for the establishment of the state of Funia. As for the situation, it will take 2 or 3 months or even longer to get news. After all, there is no wireless telegraph yet, and he can only communicate with Gwynn and Fremont through letters. Liang Zhao did not intend to pin all his hopes on Gwynn and Fremont. Gwynn was born in a small family and did not have much power. Fremont's family is quite prominent, but he is a political novice with limited influence. In this case, whether Vanderbilt can be pulled on board is particularly critical. Vanderbilt's financial resources and influence are far beyond the reach of Gwynn and Fremont. I don't know whether Vanderbilt intentionally or unintentionally, at the banquet, he only brags with his old friends and praises him a few times, and other than that, he doesn't mention anything else. Under the seemingly unruly appearance of this Commodore, there is actually a meticulous heart, which makes people elusive. Liang Zhao opened the drawer and took out a book. He opened the book and found it was full of newspaper clippings. This book contained all the information he had collected about Vanderbilt, including some gossip. Due to a shortage of funds, the construction of Mr. Vanderbilt's proud North Star is slow and is expected to be delayed by 5 months. Mr. Vanderbilt said that he would suspend the construction of the Cleveland train station, which means that Cleveland will lose 800 valuable jobs. Mr. Vanderbilt sold the Burlington steamship for $176,510. Mr. Vanderbilt, president of the Stonington Railroad, reduced his stake in the company by 7%. Mr. Vanderbilt pinched the buttocks of Congressman Cyrus's maid again. Mr. Vanderbilt touched Ms. Alice's breasts. Mr. Vanderbilt and Mr. Livingston had a big fight at the banquet. Obviously, Mr. Livingston was no match for the old sailor in fighting. Putting aside the gossip, other information shows that Vanderbilt is now short of funds. This may be an opportunity. California lacks everything, but not gold. In a sense, he and Vanderbilt have something that each other needs. They are both good partners for each other. But Vanderbilt is not Sartre, so he is not so easy to fool. Liang Zhao is still not sure how big the appetite of this shipping king is, and how big the bait is needed to hook him. His bait is Xiangshan Gold Mining Company, and the bottom line is that he maintains the controlling stake in Xiangshan Mining Company. The guest room of Tingtao Garden. Vanderbilt also did not fall asleep. He has a good alcohol tolerance, and that little bit of wine can't make him drunk. My old friend, according to your observation, is this Mr. Liang worth cooperating with? His fellow countryman Fandays has the same good alcohol tolerance as him. In addition to rebuilding the California Shipping Company, they also have a strong interest in gold. No one can resist the temptation of gold. Especially for these capitalists who fall into the eyes of money. When in Nicaragua, Vanderbilt had two options, that is, to choose a more suitable partner between Brannan and Liang Zhao. Plans cannot keep up with changes, and now Vanderbilt only has Liang Zhao as an option. Liang Zhao is too young, and he may just be lucky to be able to temporarily control the gold mining area in Sacramento, Clark interjected. We are not the only ones eyeing the tempting cheese of gold. Other families will not let go of this tempting cheese either. They have more influence than us in Congress. If we can get less gold, there is no need for us to take risks for it. Youth may represent inexperience and lack of experience, but it can never represent the ability of a young person. According to my observation, Liang Zhao has a lot of experience, which makes me feel very strange. Vanderbilt thought of himself when he was 19 years old, feeling a little inferior. He paused and continued. Liang Zhao is very ambitious and shrewd. He knows the purpose of our trip, but he never mentioned his bottom line. He doesn't show his cards easily. He is a qualified businessman. Vanderbilt affirmed this. According to his own observation, Liang Zhao's performance is indeed very mature and looks like a reliable partner. As for whether it is worth cooperating, we have to go to the Sacramento mining area tomorrow to make a judgment. The old nobles in New York have already regarded the gold in California as theirs, so why can't we get a share of it? If I can use Liang Zhao to disgust them, I don't mind. But I don't know whether the gold in Liang Zhao's hands can disgust them. Vanderbilt was also very tempted by the gold in California. Starting a shipping company is to make money, while digging for gold is to pick up money directly. No matter how profitable the business is, it is not as fast as picking up money directly. If he can get a considerable amount of gold in California, he can easily defeat his opponents on the route from New York to California. The Pacific Mail Steamship Company supported by Washington has already made him feel threatened. He needs to eliminate this threat to ensure his monopoly on the U.S. shipping industry. He also wants to enter the railway transportation industry to connect towns in the West. The development of the East has encountered a bottleneck, and the stock market has fallen so much that people want to jump off the building. If he wants to continue to make a lot of money, he can only enter the West. The West is the hope for the future of the United States. On land, tracks are routes, and trains are ships. He wants to monopolize the railroad industry just like he monopolized the shipping industry. That's why he acquired the Stonington Railroad Company and planned to become the company's president through secret operations. To complete this grand undertaking, you need US dollars, an astronomical amount of US dollars. And he only has more than $7 million US dollars lying in the bank. Obviously, this mere $7 million US dollars is not enough to support his grand plan. Make up for the overdue update on April 18th, and still owe one chapter of the Helmsman update. Follow up. Follow up. Follow up. Friends, if you can continue to recommend, I will add 5 more chapters. Chapter 57 Mercury. 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 Deng Wenkang discovered mercury, or to be more precise, he discovered it with an Irish immigrant named James G. Fair. Mercury deposits were discovered in the New Almaden, New Etery, and Sulphur Beach areas. In addition, they also discovered a new gold vein near Bell River, 160 kilometers northeast of San Francisco. Deng Wenkang rushed to San Francisco overnight to tell Liang Zhao, who was still asleep, the exciting news. Upon learning that the mercury mine had finally been discovered, Liang Zhao instantly lost all his sleepiness and got up from the bed with great excitement. He had sent people to look for mercury mines more than 3 months ago, and now it finally paid off. He valued mercury mines more than gold mines, and he was willing to take out a portion of the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company to reach a cooperation with Vanderbilt. And mercury, that is, quicksilver, he wanted to monopolize it. He would never allow anyone to get involved in California's mercury. The reason why California is a gold rush mecca is not only because it has abundant reserves of gold, but also because it has equally abundant reserves of mercury, which is rarer than gold. At present, the main gold panning method in California is still to use ore washing troughs or shallow pans. Although ore washing troughs have greatly improved the efficiency of gold panning, it still uses water power and manpower, and there is no mechanization. Even the largest Xiangshan Gold Mining Company, that is, their ore washing troughs are larger, more manpower, and they win entirely by scale, not by technology. With mercury, he can use chemical methods, that is, mercury gold separation, to wash gold. This method is also very simple. Add liquid mercury to the base of the gold panning machine, and then pour the gold sand slurry containing gold into it. Due to its chemical properties, even the smallest gold can combine with mercury to form mercury gold. This means that poor ores can also be effectively washed and gold can be extracted from them. It's just that mercury gold is not 100% pure gold. If you want to get higher purity gold, you need to further purify it. The method of further purification is also very simple and crude, that is, directly heat the mercury gold to vaporize the mercury directly. However, this method is more polluting to the environment. Even if some mercury vapor can be captured by equipment, a lot of vapor will still enter the atmosphere directly. But environmental protection is not a problem Liang Zhao needs to consider now. This simple gold panning method has existed since ancient times, and the technical difficulty is not great. Its bottleneck is not the technology but the raw materials. As long as mercury is mastered, other gold panning companies that want to use this method to pan for gold can only obediently exchange gold with him for mercury. After all, rich mines are rare. Except for a few lucky people, more people can only pan for gold in poor mines. Mercury can greatly improve the efficiency of extracting gold from poor mines. How many mineral veins have you found? Liang Zhao walked to the study and lit the whale oil lamp. It was 4 o'clock in the morning and it was still dark. He needed the help of lighting to see the map clearly. Deng Wenkang called Fell's name. He couldn't say he was smart, but he was not stupid either. He had been dealing with foreigners in the mine every day for half a year. Although he didn't speak English very well, he had no problem with simple conversations. Mr. Liang, the mercury mine was found entirely thanks to your perseverance and courage. If it had been so long, others would have given up. Fair made 13 marks on the map with a pencil. Except for the land in the Sulphur Beach area, the land ownership of these discovered mercury mines does not belong to Liang Zhao. The other 2 places, New Almaden and New Etery, are within the scope of the land he bought. He only needs to investigate whether the Sulphur Beach area is unowned or owned. If it is owned, he can spend some gold to buy it. If it is unowned, it will be easier. He can directly send someone to occupy the land, build a house and mine on the spot, and the land will belong to him. What America lacks is people, but it has plenty of land. These places are rich in mercury, but you can only see a rough idea on the map. We also accidentally discovered a gold vein near Bell River. Although it is not a rich mine, the gold reserves are also considerable. After saying that, Fair looked at Liang Zhao with an expectant look, as if he was expecting something. Liang Zhao knew what Fair was expecting. The Deng brothers had shares in Xiangshan Mining Company, and the bounty of discovering the mercury mine was insignificant to Deng Wenkang. Fair was just a poor gold digger, but compared with other gold diggers, Fair was proficient in geology and good at finding mineral veins. I will fulfill my promise. Liang Zhao took out a draft from the Bank of China from the table. Mr. Liang, I don't want the 300 ounces of gold reward, Fair said with courage. If you don't want gold, what do you want? Liang Zhao frowned slightly. If he didn't want gold, he would want more. I want a loan from the Bank of China, but I have nothing now and can't mortgage anything to get a loan from the bank. I want to set up a small mining company to dig for gold, Fair said his idea. Liang Zhao was quite impressed by the Irish descendant in front of him. He tore up the half-filled draft, crumpled it into a ball and threw it into the trash can. How much loan do you want? As long as the amount is reasonable, I can guarantee a loan from the bank for you. Fair thought for a long time and gave a number. Sir, is $50,000 okay? $50,000 is equivalent to more than 1,600 ounces of gold. This loan amount obviously exceeded Liang Zhao's psychological expectations. Although he's the richest man in California and even in the West, $50,000 is not a small amount for him. This Irish boy is quite ambitious. $50,000, this amount of loan is more than enough to establish a medium-sized mining company, sir, Fair hurriedly explained to Liang Zhao. Liang Zhao raised his hand to interrupt Fair's explanation. How about this? I will guarantee a loan of $25,000 from the Bank of China for you, and in order to give you a lower interest rate, I will personally invest in your company for the remaining $25,000. Really? That's great, sir. Fair was very excited. He finally raised his first pot of gold and established his own mining company, which could make a big splash in California, a place full of gold. As for Liang Zhao's investment, that was exactly what he wanted. His company has Liang Zhao's shares, so other gold prospecting companies and gold prospectors will definitely not dare to have any unreasonable thoughts, which can save him a lot of trouble. Fair is proficient in mining exploration. This person will be of great use if we keep him. Why doesn't a big leader keep him in our company? After Fair left, Deng Wenkang felt very sorry. During the days when he and Fair were looking for mercury mines, he learned a lot from Fair. You can keep him, but you can't keep his heart. A forced melon may quench your thirst, but it's not sweet. Fair is not someone who can stay under someone else for a long time. Since he has his own ideas, let him go. Liang Zhao didn't want to force his will. He looked at the clock on the wall. It was already dawn in the east, and he was no longer sleepy. As usual, the cocks crowed in the morning, and Nick's screams rang out at the same time. The first thing Vanderbilt did when he woke up was to beat his son. Although he drank some wine last night, he was still thinking about Connie's absence from prostitution. Liang Zhao was too lazy to get involved in Vanderbilt's own family affairs. He just pretended that he didn't hear anything and continued to work at his desk, dealing with some trivial matters. After teaching Connie a lesson, Vanderbilt handed Clark, who had just gotten up, to the pavilion. Clark looked at Vanderbilt in horror. He was Vanderbilt's son-in-law, and barely half of Vanderbilt's son. Vanderbilt dared to teach Connie a lesson, but he might not dare to teach him a lesson. Clark thought carefully about whether he had done anything wrong recently. Clark, I think there is something I need to talk to you about. Sit down and relax. Vanderbilt sat down in the pavilion and relaxed his muscles. Father-in-law, what do you say? Clark subconsciously sat down at a distance from Vanderbilt. I know that you have made a great contribution to the Vanderbilt family and spent a lot of time on Brannon, Vanderbilt said. I have seen all of this and recorded it in my notebook, but Brannon is dead. We must look forward. I don't want you to be swayed by emotions and lose your rational judgment. Do you understand? It turned out to be this matter. Clark breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be this matter. I understand, father-in-law. Vanderbilt nodded very kindly. Very good, you are a very capable person. I believe I will not make a mistake. Please remember that if you want to be a successful businessman, you need to stay calm and rational at all times. Chapter 58 All. This steamship looks familiar. Liang Zhao led Vanderbilt's expedition team on board the Sacramento steamship and headed for the Sacramento gold mining area for an investigation. Vanderbilt thought the steamship looked familiar. Connie on the side said nothing. Yes, this was the Sacramento he had sold in San Francisco. Of course it looks familiar. This ship was produced in your shipyard, and the steam engine on the ship was produced in my factory. Steam engine manufacturer Theodore Secker recognized the Sacramento at a glance. This was a small steamship produced using the most advanced technology. Then, Secker turned his head to look at Liang Zhao and asked Liang Zhao, Mr. Liang, what is the name of the steamship now? It's still called the Sacramento. Liang Zhao answered Secker's question. Vanderbilt glared at Connie. whose nose and face were swollen. "Look, Connie, you did it again." Although the steamboat could go upstream relatively easily, it was not very fast. If it departed in the morning, it would not arrive in Sacramento until the evening. The Chinese immigrants who had just immigrated to California were busy reclaiming wasteland on both sides of the river. In addition to the wasteland, there were also some scattered rice fields that had been reclaimed and planted with rice. Thanks to Liang Zhao's appearance, Chinese immigrants no longer had to work as coolies for the white gold mining companies for a meager income. In view of this, the growth rate of Chinese immigrants in California was also faster than in history. There were even people who were willing to die. They set out from the coast of Guangdong and Fujian and took a simple clipper across the Pacific Ocean to California to look for gold. Because if you were lucky, it only takes 2 or 3 months to cross the Pacific Ocean from the eastern coastal areas of China to California. Of course, only a part of the lucky Chinese immigrants on the clipper can safely arrive in California. The unfortunate ones among them either deviated from the course and their life and death were uncertain, or they encountered a shipwreck and were buried in the belly of fish. After all, the small clipper could not withstand the rough waves of the Pacific Ocean. Along the way, what caught our eyes were Chinese immigrants sweating profusely under the sun and working hard to reclaim wasteland. This is the first time I have seen so many Chinese people. Before this, I only saw a piece of news about Chinese people in the newspaper, saying that a young Chinese man was admitted to Yale University with excellent grades. This is the first Chinese student to set foot on the campus of an American university. Vanderbilt's fellow countryman, Fan Days, was surprised at the number of Chinese immigrants in California. He couldn't help but ask Liang Zhao out of curiosity. "How many Chinese immigrants are there in California now?" "Sorry, I don't know, sir. There is no statistics bureau in California." In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Liang Zhao evaded Fan Days' question. Liang Zhao really didn't know how many Chinese immigrants there were in California. After all, Chinese immigrants arrived in San Francisco every day. But Liang Zhao still had a rough idea of the number of Chinese immigrants. After all, his guest house was responsible for receiving and registering these immigrants who arrived in California, and helping them with naturalization procedures and arranging jobs. The last time Liang Zhao looked through the statistics manual of the guest house was 5 days ago. At that time, there were 4,896 registered Chinese immigrants, many of whom came here with their families, so there were also 497 women and 514 children, but most of them were young and strong laborers who came out to make a living. Don't they rest? Until now, I haven't seen any Chinese resting. They are just like machines in a factory, running tirelessly. Vanderbilt's assistant John Nigel also raised his question. This question made Liang Zhao feel very bitter, and he couldn't help but feel sad. Mr. Nigel, you don't know my motherland. My motherland has a large population and a small amount of land, especially in the south. A large family of more than a dozen people only has 1 or 2 acres of land, or even less. They make a living by cultivating these pitiful little lands. Oh my God, how can 1 or 2 acres of land support more than a dozen people? Elizabeth was very shocked. He really couldn't imagine how more than a dozen people could live on 1 or 2 acres of land. These lands can barely support themselves. Do they need to pay taxes to the government? What should they do when they encounter natural disasters? Of course they need to pay taxes. Taxation is a very complicated issue in China. The emperor will also be kind and order tax reductions in the disaster areas. No, it should be called exemptions. Thunder and rain are all the emperor's grace? Elizabeth's question was too complicated. It might not be clear even if she spent 3 days and 3 nights. Fortunately, you have a good emperor, Elizabeth said with some relief. But only officials and landlords can enjoy these graces from the emperor. Ordinary people are not qualified to enjoy the emperor's grace. If they encounter natural disasters or man-made disasters, they can only sell their property, even their wives and daughters. Liang Zhao was unwilling to continue talking at this point. Compared with the people under the rule of the Qing dynasty, the American people of this era were undoubtedly very happy. Their per capita income was only slightly lower than that of Britain and the Netherlands, slightly higher than that of France, and roughly the same as that of Belgium. It was 5 times the per capita income of the Qing dynasty, 4 times that of Japan, and twice that of Tsarist Russia. Yes, you heard it right. During the same period, Japan's per capita income was higher than that of the Qing dynasty. This shows how difficult the lives of the people of the Qing dynasty were, and the gap was still widening. As for land, America has never lacked land. According to the American Land Order, in 1785, the smallest land area for sale was 640 acres. In 1854, when the land was reduced sharply, there were still 40 acres, and the price per acre was only 1 shilling, not British shillings. American slang used to call Spanish 1/8 silver coins shillings, which is 12.5 cents. Although the land order came with additional regulations, it actually cost more dollars to obtain these lands, but it was enough to make the people of the Qing dynasty cry with envy. They have no sense of security. Only by constantly working and owning more land can they have enough sense of security, Vanderbilt said incisively. As you said, Liang Zhao also agreed with Vanderbilt's point of view. Vanderbilt is still Vanderbilt after all. Speaking of land, I heard you have a lot of land in the Sacramento mining area. Vanderbilt withdrew his gaze from the banks of the American River. Indeed, how much? Vanderbilt asked curiously. It was indeed a wise move to hoard land before the Eastern Consortium arrived. If it were him, he would do the same. Liang Zhao was the most capable young man he had met so far, and the one he admired the most. It was a pity that people like Liang Zhao would not easily work for others, just like him at the beginning. In his life, he only signed an employment contract with one person. If he had someone like Liang Zhao by his side, it would undoubtedly be a great help to him. This was Vanderbilt's current thought. Liang Zhao's domineering answer made everyone on the boat gasp. Vanderbilt shook his head repeatedly, feeling sorry for Liang Zhao. After all, young people were still young people, and they were still too immature. Chapter 59. Have you thought about the worst outcome? Mr. Liang, let's go to the bow and smoke for a while. Out of appreciation for Liang Zhao, or love for talent, Vanderbilt decided to remind this young man who didn't know how high the sky was. The two walked to the bow, and Vanderbilt habitually took out a somewhat wrinkled cigar from his jacket pocket. He didn't like to use exquisite cigarette boxes to pack cigars, but preferred to put cigars in his pockets, and only put 2 or 3 cigars at a time. Because this way he didn't have to share his cigarettes with others. You made the right choice to buy land, which can make a lot of money, but you bought too much? Do you know what kind of people your future buyers are? Vanderbilt said to Liang Zhao in the tone of an experienced person. It's a good thing to be ambitious, but it's a very bad thing not to restrain your ambition. Vanderbilt himself suffered such a loss when he was young. If Liang Zhao only bought a small part of the land in the Sacramento gold mining area, perhaps the big tycoons in the East would let him go and reluctantly spend money to buy some gold-rich land. If the land in the gold mining area is all gone, these big Eastern tycoons who are used to sucking blood will never take out their pockets and use real money to buy land from Liang Zhao. I know that they are more powerful and more ruthless than you. Liang Zhao's eyes are very firm. As long as they come, there will be no more miracles in California. The history of private gold diggers and small gold mining companies getting rich overnight will become history forever. Money sometimes can't buy the status of the upper class. I am only ruthless to my competitors. I only want money. Vanderbilt's status in New York is very embarrassing. His wealth did not bring him a social status that matches it. Even the tickets to the New York elite celebrity banquet were obtained by him with great effort. He still remembers the scene of his first banquet. He was dressed very formally, wearing a specially customized tuxedo and a civilized cane. He even learned aristocratic etiquette to better integrate with them. But his efforts were not respected by the celebrities. The upper class looked down on him as a country bumpkin and shamed him as a rude farmer and a mean sailor. After that, Vanderbilt completely figured it out. He attended the banquet just to make trouble. He made trouble at the banquet like an immature child, vented his grievances, and troubled the New York elites who claimed to be aristocrats. He gave up the idea of integrating into the New York celebrity circle and concentrated on making money with his like-minded friends. He also made friends with some members of Congress, but they were all low-ranking members. Vanderbilt really got a status that matched his wealth until after the Civil War. After the Civil War, in recognition of his support for the Union in the Civil War, Congress awarded him a gold medal. But he also paid a great price for this. The biggest price was that during the Civil War, he sent his favorite George Washington Vanderbilt to the battlefield, and George Washington Vanderbilt never came back. This made him suffer from self-blame for the rest of his life. For my fellow sufferers and for myself, I must do this. Only in this way can I gain a foothold in America. If I don't do this, do you know what awaits those gold diggers and my compatriots? Find a job in those large gold mining companies to make a living. Work 90 hours a week for a meager income, or even more. By then, we will never get ahead. Of course, I have also thought about what kind of results this will bring me. Liang Zhao's tone was very firm. He would never give up the wealth he already had in his hands. Although he was a person in his previous life, he had to compromise with reality in order to make a living and became a cow and horse of capitalists. In this life, he would never be willing to be a cow and horse again. He also didn't want his compatriots to go to California with hopes and ideals just to take a boat from one hell to another. What do you think the worst result will be? Vanderbilt asked. Congress does not recognize the legitimacy of my ownership of Sacramento land, and will put my land up for public bidding, and those greedy big capitalists will bid for these lands with rich gold buried at a negligible price. This is the worst result Liang Zhao can think of. It seems that you know them well. If it really comes to this, what are you going to do? Vanderbilt was very surprised by Liang Zhao's answer. This was indeed the worst outcome, and it was even somewhat unconstitutional. But he believed that for the sake of gold, those big chaebols might put pressure on Congress to do such a thing. When he was in court in his early years, he had personally experienced their methods, and he knew the faces of those people very well. I will destroy California with my own hands, Liang Zhao said in a loud voice. California has more than just Sacramento. If they insist on only focusing on Sacramento and putting me to death, I will take up arms to defend my property and dignity. What I can't get, they can't easily get. I can make California run in an orderly manner, or I can make California fall into chaos and disorder, and turn California into purgatory on earth. If they want gold, they can go to purgatory to get it. Liang Zhao was not exaggerating. He had been secretly holding arms for a long time. In addition to working hard to train a 150-man legion into professional soldiers, the 680 members of the Loyalty Society were also trained as paramilitary personnel in turns. The young and strong Chinese were also being armed. If he really wanted to turn against him, he could at least raise an armed force of thousands of people. To wipe out his private armed forces, at least 2 infantry regiments of troops would be dispatched, and Colonel Griffin stationed in California only had 400 or 500 people, so there was nothing he could do for a while. California is isolated in the western frontier. Liang Zhao has plenty of time to raise San Francisco, Sacramento and even Los Angeles to the ground while the U.S. War Department is mobilizing troops. Even if the U.S. military enters, he will not fight them directly. At most, he will escape to the vast western mountains and become a bandit, robbing houses, and come to the gold mining area from time to time to disgust the Americans with the Indians. Such a high cost of suppressing the rebellion is enough to make the U.S. government drink a pot. Of course, this is just a last resort. There is a more gentle way, that is, to use the public opinion in the East and the Texas landlords who also received land from the Mexican government to put pressure on the government. As for whether it will work, he dare not guarantee it. Ahem, this is just the worst result. Maybe the real situation will be better than you think. Liang Zhao's response made Vanderbilt feel numb. I hope he is just talking. It was late at night when we arrived in Sacramento. Although the Sacramento sailed smoothly, after a whole day on the ship, everyone felt a little tired, so they decided to rest for a night before conducting the investigation the next day. Although it was late at night, the Sacramento area was still very lively. Many nearby miners had settled here, and many shops were still open late at night. This was where Liang Zhao made his fortune. The Sacramento City area was planned by Liang Zhao himself. The streets were wide. Although there were vendors on both sides of the street, it was still more than enough to accommodate 4 carriages running side by side. What was even more valuable was that Sacramento streets had a complete drainage system. Due to the lack of materials for making drainage pipes, Liang Zhao could only settle for the second best and use open channels for drainage. The relatively complete drainage system ensured that sewage would not be discharged on the streets at will, so the streets were also relatively clean. It's very clean here, Elizabeth said with some surprise. She thought Sacramento would have a poor sanitation environment like many small towns in the East. Unexpectedly, she didn't even have to hold up her skirt when walking here. The hardened streets were cleaned very cleanly, so she didn't have to worry about getting her skirt dirty. Since there were enough public toilets in Sacramento, it was basically impossible to see people defecating or dumping their excrement on the streets. At most, you could see some livestock feces. These livestock feces would not stay on the streets for long, because here, like the commercial streets in San Francisco, There were special cleaning staff responsible for cleaning the streets. I've arrived at my home. The conditions here are not as good as San Francisco. Please make do with it. Liang Zhao came to his residence in Sacramento. His residence in Sacramento was built in a hurry. Although it was not simple, it was far less comfortable than Tingtao Garden. The walls of this house still had bullet marks from the original battle. Vanderbilt looked at these dense bullet marks and asked, "Has there been a fierce conflict here?" "Yes, some deserters attacked here and I almost died here, but fortunately we miners were united enough to drive away those bandits," Liang Zhao said with a relaxed look. Vanderbilt nodded, a little absent-minded, as if thinking about something. Chapter 60 Mining Area. The next morning, everyone was awakened by the noise from the construction site. The morning in Sacramento came very early. The immigrants brought carts of building wood from the sawmill to Sacramento to build their homes. The houses they built were also called light buildings. Although they were not beautiful and not so strong, they could build a decent house in the shortest time. In later generations, emerging metropolises represented by San Francisco and Chicago met the needs of rapid urban expansion with this kind of light building. In this regard, Liang Zhao reached the pinnacle, using the modular construction concept of later generations to process the wood into shape at the sawmill. The builders only need to pull these building materials back, splice and assemble them together according to the instructions on the drawings, and then repair and reinforce them. Of course, there are also disadvantages to doing this. For example, wooden buildings are afraid of fire. Once a fire breaks out, it will be a catastrophic blow to the entire city. In addition, all the buildings are the same, and the entire city looks very monotonous and unsightly. To this end, Liang Zhao not only controlled the distance between building groups and set up fire breaks, but also set up 3 firefighting units in Sacramento and San Francisco to prevent fires. As for aesthetics, the first thing to solve now is the problem of whether there are buildings. Efficiency is above all else, and the problem of building aesthetics can be put aside. Do you also produce these building materials? On the way to the gold mining area, Vanderbilt smelled a business opportunity. This kind of building material will have great potential in the westward movement. Yes, they are all produced by my sawmill. Liang Zhao thought about it and felt that this was not accurate, and then added, "To be precise, it is a sawmill jointly owned by me and Mr. Sutter, a local large farmer. The building materials in San Francisco and Sacramento are all provided by our sawmill, stone factory and brick factory." "It seems that you are really omnipresent in California." Vanderbilt once again looked at Liang Zhao with new eyes. Before meeting Liang Zhao, he still thought that Liang Zhao's rise in California in a short period of time was due to luck. Now he completely denied his original opinion. With Liang Zhao's ability, he could find business opportunities to make a fortune even in New York and become a household name. "How long does it take to build a building?" Vanderbilt asked. "If there is no shortage of money, it can be built within a month," Liang Zhao replied. "What other industries do you have in California? We want to visit them." Vanderbilt's fellow countryman Fandays also respected this young man and couldn't wait to visit Liang Zhao's other industries in California. "Business secrets, sir," Liang Zhao smiled. Fandays was a little disappointed when he heard it, but Liang Zhao's next sentence made him energetic again. "But I am happy to share my business secrets with you. Let's go and take a look at the gold mining area first." The largest gold mining area of Jiangshan Gold Mining Company is on the dry riverbed of the American River. Miners in canvas work clothes are either blasting the bedrock at the bottom of the riverbed to mine, or going down the mine to take ore soil, or washing and screening gold next to the washing trough. No one is idle. "Brother Yao, go this way. The left is the blasting area. It's not safe." Deng Wenqi, who had his braids cut off, was much more energetic than before. He was in charge of the mining area on the riverbed of the American River. Liang Zhao was able to entrust him with such an important matter, which showed his great trust in him. He was also very proud of it. As they were talking, a deafening explosion sounded not far away, and everyone couldn't help but cover their ears. "I haven't seen you for a long time. You have become darker. The conditions in Sacramento are more difficult, and it's hard for you," Liang Zhao said with concern. After Liang Zhao moved to San Francisco, more of the Deng brothers followed him to San Francisco, and fewer of the Deng brothers stayed in Sacramento. It's not bitter, Deng Wenqi shook his head quickly. "When we first came to Saskatchewan, it was still winter. We squeezed into a shack and survived. What's the point of this little bit of suffering now? No matter how bitter it is, Looking at the golden gold makes it sweet. I never dreamed that I would have this day. Deng Wenqi's words came from the heart. He originally came to California just to make a living. He is very satisfied with his achievements today. Speaking of gold, how much gold can this mine produce every day now? When asking about the gold production, Liang Zhao switched to English to talk to Deng Wenqi. Deng Wenqi is not stupid. Liang Zhao asks about the gold production every day. He is naturally clear about the gold production of the American River Mine. Asking about the gold production in front of the foreign devils, in the foreign devils' words, is nothing more than telling the foreign devils. It's hard to say. The amount of gold produced depends on the gold content of the oil mine that day, Deng Wenqi replied. Just tell me how much gold was mined yesterday. 2,112.7 ounces, Deng Wenqi said a number without hesitation. Very good, Liang Zhao nodded with satisfaction. He knew the gold production of the American River Mine very well. The actual gold production yesterday was 1,037 ounces, not even half of what Deng Wenqi said. The total gold production of all the mines of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company was only 1,780 ounces, far less than the number Deng Wenqi said. Of course, it is not impossible to achieve this output, as long as he piles manpower into the mine. Anyway, he occupies the richest mining area in Sacramento, and he will make money no matter how he digs. It's just that he encouraged Chinese immigrants to reclaim land and did not pile all the young and strong labor force in the mining area. Are you sure you mean the daily output and not the monthly output? More than 2,100 ounces of gold a day, which means you can earn more than $65,000 a day. My God. You only need half a month to become a millionaire. Vanderbilt's relatives and friends are all wealthy people in New York. Even they all felt unbelievable when they heard this number, and almost jumped up. You can't calculate it like this, gentlemen. I have to pay the miners' wages, dynamite also needs money, and there are many other expenses. Moreover, a mining area will soon be mined out, and we have to look for a new mining area. Take the American River Mine for example, its overall output is constantly declining, Liang Zhao said calmly. The daily output of more than 2,100 ounces of gold made Vanderbilt, a capital tycoon, excited. Even if this number is inflated. After deducting other expenses, Vanderbilt believes that the gold flowing into Liang Zhao's pocket every day is also very considerable. What's more, Liang Zhao has other industries in California, and it is not impossible to earn $50,000 or $60,000 a day. This is picking up money. Vanderbilt suppressed his excitement and sighed. There was much more gold in California than he had imagined. So I am not a real millionaire, but a millionaire who picked up money directly. There is a lot of water, and there is a big gap between you and me, Liang Zhao said. Since there was no state government in California in 1850, there is no very accurate number on how much gold was mined in California in 1850. There is data from 1851. In 1851, the gold production in the United States was 77 tons, of which 71 tons came from California, which is more than 2.3 million troy ounces if converted into ounces. The gold production in California alone accounted for half of the world's gold production that year, about 45%. It is not surprising to pick up a few millionaires in such a place full of gold. Even if Australia's new gold mine, that is, Melbourne, soon discovered rich gold reserves. But its production is just a little brother in front of California, and the British Empire has not been able to shake the United States' position as the world's #1 gold producer until the unethical South Africa also discovered gold. And South Africa's gold production is even more heavyweight, with annual production directly calculated in hundreds of tons. But in terms of influence, South Africa's gold rush is far less than that of California's gold rush. Although they are both gold, the gold dug out of South Africa never belongs to South Africa, while the gold dug out of the United States belongs to the United States. Perhaps this is the sadness of being a colony in a weak country. Liang Zhao's words made these wealthy people feel a lot better, otherwise their efforts for half a lifetime would not be as good as others gold mining here for 1 or 2 months, and they would feel psychologically unbalanced just thinking about it. After they finished strolling around the mining area, Liang Zhao had prepared a bigger surprise for them, and he extended an invitation to these wealthy people. Gentlemen, I sincerely invite you to visit the vault of my bank. I wonder if you are interested. Chapter 61 The Magic of Gold. After Liang Zhao and Vanderbilt left, Deng Wenqi immediately changed his face and said in a deep voice to the Chinese members of the mining protection team who were holding guns, "Bring up those suspected foreign miners who hid gold." 4 trembling white people with terrified expressions were brought up. They were 2 Americans, a Frenchman, and a Spaniard. Deng Wenqi had been in the mine for several months. He could guess who was guilty and who was not. It was difficult for a guilty person to escape his sharp eyes like a vulture. "Master Deng, we have brought everyone up. What should we do with them?" asked the leading member of the mining protection team. "Have you found the gold they hid?" Deng Wenqi's cold eyes swept over the 4 foreign miners who were brought in. Just now, he did not deal with the 4 foreign miners who were suspected of hiding gold because Liang Zhao brought foreign guests. Now that Liang Zhao has taken Vanderbilt and others away, he naturally does not have to be polite to these gold-hiding people. Nothing was found on him. These foreigners are keeping their mouths shut. It seems they won't cry until they see the coffin. The member of the mining protection team shook his head and said, "Follow the old rules," Deng Wenqi said lightly. It was not the first time for the members of the mining protection team to deal with such a matter. They ordered the 4 foreign miners suspected of hiding gold to take off all their clothes and pants. The Frenchman who had just entered the mine did not know the rules here and was reluctant to take off his clothes. The members of the mining protection team did not show any courtesy to him and went straight up to strip him naked in a few seconds. After these foreign miners took off their clothes, the Chinese members of the mining protection team shouted at them to squat down. Although they were reluctant in their hearts, after seeing the guns in the hands of the Chinese members of the mining protection team, the 4 white miners still squatted down with gritted teeth. Deng Wenqi was not in a hurry. He moved a stool in front of them and ate grapes. He was very experienced in dealing with such things. Not to mention stuffing gold into the anus, even if it was swallowed into the intestines, he would have a way to take the gold out. An American said that his legs were sore from squatting and he wanted to stand up to relax. He was hit by 2 rifle butts and continued squatting obediently. Soon, 3 pieces of gold wrapped in shit appeared on the ground. Fuck, these foreigners have really big assholes. This nugget of gold weighs at least 2 ounces. How can they fit it in? A Chinese member of the mining team couldn't help but exclaimed. These foreigners are so fucking greedy. Our mine provides food and accommodation, and there are no other expenses. If they work honestly for a month, wouldn't they have 3 ounces of gold? Why do they have to take risks to hide gold? Another Chinese member of the mining team said that this was the 6th gold hiding incident discovered this month. 15 miners who had gold were all white without exception. He really couldn't understand why these white people did this. Isn't it good to make money steadily? They have to risk their lives. Deng Wenqi was no longer surprised. Not to mention 2 ounces, he had seen foreigners stuff 3 or 4 ounces of gold into their assholes, and they were not afraid of being stuffed to death. The 3 white men who hid the gold begged for mercy when they saw that their plan was exposed, but Deng Wenqi was not moved at all and just waved his hand. Find an abandoned mine and bury the 3 foreigners who hid the gold. If anyone asks about it, just say that the mine collapsed and they were buried inside. Mining is a process that will inevitably lead to death. Several Chinese members of the mining protection team nodded and drove the 3 white men who hid the gold to the abandoned mine with ease. Deng Wenqi smiled and helped up an American who did not have a gold sutra. The American was still in shock and trembled with fear. Deng Wenqi spoke to the American in English with a strong Cantonese accent. Congratulations, from today on, you are a member of the mining protection team. The mining protection team needs honest people like you. Hearing that he could join the mining protection team, the American was overjoyed, and the pain from the beating just now disappeared without a trace. It was worth it to be beaten up to join the mining protection team. As for the dignity of being stripped naked, he didn't care at all. Dignity doesn't exist in a place like the gold mining area. Every day, you have to come in naked and leave naked in front of everyone. Great. Great. Thank you, Mr. Deng, you are such a good person. The American didn't even bother to put on his clothes and hurried to thank Deng Wenqi. Joining the mining protection team was the dream of his life. Being a miner is not only hard and tiring, but also risking your life to go down the mine. The gold you can get every month is only 3 ounces, while the members of the mining protection team have it much easier, and their monthly salary is a full ounce of gold more than those ordinary miners. However, the members of the mining protection team of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company are basically Chinese, and it is very difficult for white people to join the mining protection team. On the other hand, when Deng Wenqi was dealing with the white miners who hid gold, Liang Zhao had already arrived at the Sacramento branch of Bank of America. The two smartest siblings in the Deng family are Deng Wenyu and Deng Ying, both of whom he entrusted with important tasks. Deng Wenyu was in charge of the guest house in San Francisco to receive Chinese immigrants arriving in San Francisco, while Deng Ying is now the vice president of Bank of America and the president of the Sacramento branch. In the past few months, Deng Ying has changed a lot. She is no longer the timid girl she used to be. She has become generous and confident. Let cousin see, eh? It seems that you have grown a lot taller. The last time he saw Deng Ying, the top of Deng Ying's head could only reach the tip of his nose. This time, Deng Ying's head directly reached his eyebrows, which surprised Liang Zhao and made him feel incredible. Deng Ying burst out laughing. I'm wearing foreign high heels, so I look taller. Liang Zhao looked up and down at Deng Ying's outfit. She was wearing an ivory dress with a floral pattern and a thin light blue vest on her upper body. It would be hard to find another Chinese woman in California who dresses so avant-garde. My second uncle and second aunt can't control you anymore, Liang Zhao joked. My father cut his braids and wore foreign clothes. Why should he control me? Only the officials can set fires, but the people can't light lamps. Deng Ying blinked and looked at Liang Zhao and said, even if my father wants to control me, I still have my cousin to support me. Cousin, don't you think so? Yes, yes. Stop talking nonsense, get down to business, take these distinguished guests to the vault to have a look. Liang Zhao nodded and smiled. Deng Ying greeted several people in English proficiently and introduced herself. This surprised Vanderbilt and others. Although the status of American women is not low in the world, there are not many professional women in this era. Women still suffer from discrimination in employment, except for textile factories, garment factories and other factories that have a large demand for female workers. In other industries, especially the financial industry, there are almost no women. Hello, Miss Deng. My name is Connie. You are the most charming woman I have ever met. I wonder if I would be lucky enough to have dinner with you tonight. Connie stared at Deng Ying infatuatedly, holding Deng Ying's gloved hand tightly and refusing to let go. Mr. Connie, you hurt me. Deng Ying felt very embarrassed. No matter how avant-garde she was not avant-garde enough to have dinner with a strange man she just met. Are you itchy again? Connie's behavior made Vanderbilt feel a little embarrassed. Vanderbilt swung his walking stick and knocked Connie's hand away. Elizabeth hurriedly stepped forward to apologize to Deng Ying on behalf of Connie. I'm sorry, Miss Deng. My brother is a complete nuisance. The defense of the Sacramento branch of Bank of America is even more strict than that of the head office, and the number of guards in the bank is more than that of the head office in San Francisco. Since Sacramento is close to the gold-producing area, a large amount of gold is stored here every day. Armed guards from various gold mining companies were escorting gold and queuing up in front of the bank, waiting to exchange the gold for safer and more convenient gold certificates, and then take the gold out when needed. At present, Bank of America is still the only bank in California, without any competitors. The only small episode is that Brannon once briefly opened a bank in San Francisco in order to compete with Liang Zhao. However, Brannon's bank was also swallowed up by Bank of America with the demise of the Brannon family. Deng Ying took out a bunch of keys to the bank vault door from her handbag and opened the 3 iron doors of the bank vault one by one. After the door of the bank vault was opened, it was pitch black inside and nothing could be seen. Only a few thin rays of light shone into the vault from the ventilation holes. Light up! Liang Zhao ordered the whale oil lamp in the vault to be lit to provide lighting. When the lights came on, what came into view were neatly stacked large gold bricks. Each gold bar in the vault was melted and cast according to the specification of 25 kilograms, which is 803.794507 troy ounces. The reason why Liang Zhao melted such large gold bars was to facilitate statistics and transportation, and to prevent theft. Of course, it was mainly for the convenience of transportation and statistics. In California, only people with mental problems would have the idea of his gold. At the moment of seeing the gold, everyone was suffocated, including Vanderbilt. Not to mention the others. Although they are also wealthy people in the East, their assets include fixed assets such as factories, land, and equipment. Among these people, except for Vanderbilt who can easily take out millions of dollars in cash, the rest of the silver mine deposits are at most $1 or $2 million. The gold bar in the vault is worth about $25,000 US. The so-called millionaire is only worth 40 gold bars in the vault. And Liang Zhao has 523 such gold bars at the Bank of America branch in Sacramento. And this number is increasing every day. Oh, this dazzling light, my eyes are almost blinded, shocking. It's really too shocking. This is not the first time I have seen gold, but it is the first time I have seen so much gold. Oh my God, I can't describe my mood at this moment in words. Vanderbilt took a deep breath and tried to keep his mood calm. The gold reserves in this branch vault alone are enough to make Liang Zhao join the ranks of the multimillionaire club. This is not the most terrible thing. The terrible thing is that the assets of this small rich man are still growing at an alarming rate. All these years, Vanderbilt's eyes were like a blazing fire under the shining gold. At this moment, his heart was also like a burning flame. If he had this gold, why would he worry about not being able to defeat competitors in the shipping industry? And why would he worry about the railway company not being able to build a new train station and lay new tracks? Why worry about stocks? Forget about stocks, now the stocks and the New York Securities and Exchange Commission are all falling. The gold in this vault is even enough to dig a Panama Canal through the Isthmus of Central America. The British Bank of Barings and the French Bank of France estimated that the Panama Canal project would require $11,231,021.14 to complete this great project. Of course, Vanderbilt also knew that this cost, which was accurate to the cent, was a random estimate by the Bank of Barings and the Bank of France, because they expected that no rich man in the United States at that time had the ability to come up with $10 million to build the Panama Canal. In fact, this is true, including Vanderbilt, who does not have this ability. His deposits in major banks add up to about $8 million, which is still a long way from the cost of the Panama Canal. Vanderbilt was thinking, if he had so much gold, what would he do? And his thoughts soon became confused, because he wanted to do too many things. Shipping, railways, finance. He wanted to do them all. Not only did he want to do them, he also wanted to be the master of these industries. He admitted that there was too much gold, so much that even he, a naval commodore who was rich enough to rival a country, was tempted. It's not that capitalists don't love money, but they love big money more. I also hope that all this gold is mine, but unfortunately, there is not even 1/3 of the gold in this vault that really belongs to me. Liang Zhao shook his head. Most of this gold is stored in my place by other gold mining companies. Don't say 1/3, even 1/6 is more than all my assets. Fan Days' tears fell involuntarily, and he continued in a crying voice. I am 58 years old this year, and my assets are less than $2 million after struggling for most of my life, and you are not even 20 years old, and your assets are several times more than mine. My God, how can you be so unfair? Liang Zhao did not have a regular meeting with Fan Days. Is it fair? Perhaps Mr. Fan Days would think about the workers in the factory who earn less than $10 a month and work more than 12 hours a day, and he would feel how happy he is. Liang Zhao changed the subject and continued, but only a small part of this gold needs to be kept as a reserve fund, and the rest of the gold can be used for investment. Gentlemen, hearing about investment, everyone's eyes were like hungry wolves, emitting a terrifying light. Obviously, they all want to get a piece of the pie. The temptation of gold to them is huge. Vanderbilt was also secretly happy in his heart. This cunning little fox finally showed his tail. Liang Zhao knew that he could not keep these wealth with his current strength. He still understood the truth that a big tree attracts the wind. As a Chinese with a huge amount of gold, he would undoubtedly become a thorn in the eyes of the Eastern chaebols and aristocrats, and they would attack him sooner or later. Instead of doing so, it is better to cooperate with Vanderbilt and other upstarts. Maybe there is still a glimmer of hope to keep his wealth and continue to grow. He also thought about keeping a low profile, but unfortunately, with his current wealth, he couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. The rich people in the United States with assets of more than 10 million can be broken with one hand. Although he is not a multimillionaire now, at the current rate of growth of his wealth, he will become a millionaire of tens of millions of dollars by the end of this year, at the latest. In response to everyone's request and to avoid being 404, the Bank of China was renamed Bank of America. The monthly votes have exceeded 200, and a 4K chapter is here, and there will be at least one more chapter in the evening. I sincerely ask everyone to vote and read to support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62: America's First Industrialists. The Sacramento branch of Bank of America is one of the few masonry buildings in Sacramento, and it is also the most solid building in Sacramento. After everyone reluctantly left the bank vault, Liang Zhao received them in the VIP room on the second floor of the Sacramento branch of Bank of America. In the past, only customers who had more than 800 ounces of gold in Bank of America were eligible to enter the VIP room on the second floor. In the eyes of Vanderbilt and others, the decoration of the VIP room of Bank of America was not luxurious. Compared with the major banks in the East, it could even be said to be a bit simple and shabby. But the amount of business they were discussing here today was enough to eclipse any major bank in the United States. Perhaps this will also become the largest transaction in the history of the founding of the United States. Everyone in the VIP room had their own thoughts. Vanderbilt wanted to use California's gold to defeat those annoying competitors on the sea and canals, open up his own railway empire, and at the same time make up for the huge losses caused by the stock market downturn in recent years. Jeremiah Simonson, a shipbuilding expert who had been silent all the way and played the role of a quiet listener, hoped to obtain enough gold to develop new shipbuilding technology and expand the scale of the shipyard. The idea of steam engine manufacturer Theodore Secker was similar to Simonson. He hoped to obtain gold to improve the existing steam engine in order to narrow the gap with the British in the field of steam engines, so that his steam engine could be exported to Europe and compete with the British steam engine in the international market. Although the industry in the United States had started in 1850, the industrial products made in the United States were still synonymous with low-end and inferior in the international market. Not to mention competing with Britain, even France could not compete. The reason why these newly started manufacturing industries in the United States can survive is to rely on the trade protection policy of the federal government, which has increased import tariffs and excluded a large number of British and French industrial products. If there is a high-end industrial product that can beat Britain in the European market, such as a steam engine, it will not only make money, but also be a very proud thing for America. Even the citizens of the whole country will be proud of him. The future belongs to the era of steam machinery. Steam engines are needed in many places such as steamships, trains, and factories. He does not want to lag behind others in this regard. If Secker gets enough gold, he can expand the scale of the steam engine factory, build more new factories, hire more workers, and produce more steam engines. Fan Days is the most ordinary one among these people. He runs a grocery store, but he runs more grocery stores. In terms of financial resources, he is far less than the others present. Fan Days' idea is also very simple, that is, to open more grocery stores in more cities. As for Connie, he is the most absent-minded one. He just sits on the sofa and leisurely drinks tea and whistles, and does not forget to tease the young female employee who serves tea and water. The gold in California is enough to change America and even change the world pattern. Although I now have the most gold in California and the largest and richest gold-producing area, I am willing to share my gold with you who are also heroes who will change the future of America. Liang Zhao now urgently hopes to convert the gold in his hands into real industry, otherwise the gold in his hands will not mean much to him. Liang Zhao also had the idea of cooperating with the Eastern nobles and tycoons to share the California gold. This ridiculous idea only flashed through his mind. Those self-proclaimed nobles were unwilling to accept Vanderbilt, a Dutch white tycoon, so how could they accept him, a Chinese tycoon of a different skin color? The people in the VIP room began to discuss enthusiastically. Obviously, they had a strong interest in gold. But they also knew the cost of doing so. If we do this, we will be enemies with those famous tycoons in the East, who have coveted California gold for a long time. Simonson is a more cautious person. Although gold is tempting, it costs a lot to get it. The purpose of his trip is to investigate California. If it is suitable, he will open a new shipyard in California and undertake some ship maintenance business. There are many merchant ships traveling to and from California every day, and as far as he knows, only Liang Zhao's San Francisco shipyard in California has the ability to repair small steamships. His shipyard will be very useful here and will help him to grab huge wealth. Getting involved in the gold industry was not part of Simonson's plan. Simonson, I admit that what you said makes sense. But even if we don't get involved in California's gold, will those arrogant guys be friends with us? Have you forgotten how they embarrassed you at your son's wedding last year? As the saying goes, the barefoot are not afraid of the ones wearing shoes, and Van Dazer is such a person. Anyway, he doesn't have much industry, and getting involved in California's gold is a rare opportunity for him, and he doesn't want to miss the opportunity. And the wedding of Louise and Clark 2 years ago, my old friend, have you forgotten it? They directly ignored your invitation, and no one came to Louise and Clark's wedding to give the two newlyweds sincere blessings. California's gold, why can they touch it, but we can't, as he said. The emotional Van Dazer looked at Vanderbilt again. Vanderbilt was the most influential person among them, and Van Dazer hoped that Vanderbilt could participate in the gold rush in California. Vanderbilt was a man who held grudges, and he certainly had not forgotten these humiliations. However, what Vanderbilt was worried about was not those business celebrities, but their influence in Congress. He just didn't know how sincere Liang Zhao would be, and whether it was worth the risk. Vanderbilt took a deep puff of his cigar, turned his head and stared at Liang Zhao. What my old friend said makes a lot of sense. To be honest, Mr. Liang, I am very interested in the gold rush in California. It's just that we still don't know how sincere you are, how much tangible profit can be obtained from participating in the California gold rush is what Vanderbilt is most concerned about. Liang Zhao took out the financial report prepared before departure and handed it to Vanderbilt. This is the financial report of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company last week. Last week, we produced an average of 2,641 ounces of gold per day. After deducting all expenses, we can earn an average of 1,854 ounces of gold per day. Today, I will take you to visit the largest mining area of Xiangshan Gold Mining. Vanderbilt took a while to understand Liang Zhao's financial report. Liang Zhao's financial report was very beautiful, and the company's capital flow was clear at a glance. He even wanted his company's employees to follow this template to make financial reports in the future. Liang Zhao gave him too many surprises, and Vanderbilt was not surprised that he could make such a good-looking financial report. In the future, Liang Zhao made false financial reports for many small companies. Moreover, this financial report was not exaggerated. Liang Zhao only doubled the data based on the original real financial report. It was not a problem to deceive Vanderbilt. How many shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company are you willing to give up? Vanderbilt asked after putting down the financial report. He admitted that the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company were indeed very tempting. He also privately sent his assistant Nigel to investigate gold mining companies in California. Xiangshan Gold Mining Company was the best among these gold mining companies, leaving its competitors far behind. Even if a large consortium from the East entered California, Xiangshan Gold Mining Company was not without the ability to fight back. Vanderbilt understood that the most valuable thing about Xiangshan Gold Mining Company was not the company itself, but the large amount of land owned by Liang Zhao. These were things that other gold mining companies did not have. In the final analysis, land was the root of all these problems. Chapter 63, Surrender. 30%. As long as you build a factory in California, I am willing to transfer 30% of the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company in exchange for the shares of your factory in California. This is the price Liang Zhao offered. When the mining company was established, it was called Xiangshan Gold Mining Company instead of Xiangshan Mining Company in order to separate the gold mining business from the mercury mining business. So many people are in the gold mine, and it is unrealistic for him to monopolize it with his weak strength. Now that he has mastered the mercury mine in California, he can tolerate cutting off a piece of the big cake of gold. Anyway, in the future, other gold mining companies, whether big or small, want to use efficient means to mine gold on a large scale, and mercury is a threshold they can't get around. Mastering mercury mines is equivalent to indirectly mastering gold, and now, everyone's eyes are focused on gold mines in California, not mercury mines. The external pressure and competition that Liang Zhao has to face in monopolizing mercury resources is not as great as that of gold mines. What about the labor problem? Building a factory requires a large number of workers, and the labor cost in California is too high. Simonson expressed his concerns. He knew about the labor cost in California, and the labor in California was not cheap at all. I will solve the labor problem for you, but I cannot provide senior technicians and engineers. You can sign a contract with them in the East in advance. It is best to have a long-term contract with a higher penalty, Liang Zhao said. 30%, Vanderbilt squinted and shook his head. Too little. This share is not enough for me and my old friends to share. Vanderbilt admired Liang Zhao, but business was business. He would not let his personal likes and dislikes affect his business. The bait Liang Zhao gave was tempting enough, but not big enough to lure Vanderbilt, the capital crocodile. Vanderbilt's subordinates had different opinions. Vandays felt that this condition was tempting enough. After all, the gold production of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company was there, and the dividends that could be obtained from 30% of the shares were already considerable enough. The remaining few were different from Vandays. They hoped to go one step further and occupy more shares. At least 70%. Simonson's appetite was obviously much bigger than Vandays's, and he opened his mouth with a lion's mouth. Liang Zhao knew that Simonson offered this price in order to bargain with him, but Liang Zhao would not accept such a result anyway, and neither would the original shareholders of Xiangshan Gold Mining. Vanderbilt guessed that Liang Zhao's bottom line was to control the controlling rights of Xiangshan Gold Mining. He had a better vision than others, and he cared about the huge real estate with gold buried in Liang Zhao's hands. Vanderbilt and Liang Zhao looked at each other, and Liang Zhao knew what Vanderbilt wanted. I will not make any more concessions on the transfer of shares in Xiangshan Gold Mining. But I can sell you some land at a preferential price. If the dividends from Xiangshan Gold Mining Company cannot satisfy you, you can also mine and pan for gold in the Sacramento area on your own. This is exactly what Vanderbilt wanted. In addition to occupying a part of the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company, he also wanted to open his own mining company to pan for gold in California. The eyes of the other people focused on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt pondered for a moment, calculating the gains and losses, and finally nodded, indicating his attitude. Mr. Liang, it's a pleasure to work with you. Next, let's talk about the details of the cooperation. Although these are minor details, they are very necessary. Vanderbilt extended his hand. It's my honor, Mr. Vanderbilt. Liang Zhao smiled and shook hands with Vanderbilt. Mr. Vanderbilt, I think we can still fight for it just now, and maybe we can get a better result. It's not like you to negotiate such a big deal so easily. It's well known that you're a penny-pinching person in the business world. After the negotiation, Simonson, who had just walked out of the VIP room, was not very satisfied with the result. Simonson, what do you think is a better result? 70% of the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company. Vanderbilt responded to this. As long as we invest in Xiangshan Gold Mining Company, we will have plenty of ways to slowly dilute Liang Zhao's shares in the future, just like what we did with Stonington Railroad 3 years ago. Clark thought of Stonington Railroad, which was acquired by Vanderbilt. Not exactly the same. Liang Zhao obviously has more vision and ability than those good-for-nothings at Stonington Railroad. Vanderbilt shook his head. 2 years ago, due to the financial crisis, he had to resign as the president of Stonington Railroad, temporarily suspend his involvement in the railway transportation industry, and concentrate on running his shipping empire. If California can improve, perhaps next year he will return to the position of president of Stonington Railroad and restart his railway transportation empire plan. The most important thing is that he is willing to sell us the land. Liang Zhao is the only one in California who has these lands where gold has been discovered, Vanderbilt's assistant Nigel said. With these lands, we can set up our own mining company here, which is more attractive than the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company. After all, who is Vanderbilt's assistant or Nigel who knows Vanderbilt better? Nigel knows that Vanderbilt is not the kind of person who will hang himself on a tree. Liang Zhao is a little vixen. For these lands, we have to run around and lobby for him after returning to New York. Only when the government recognizes the legitimacy of these lands can we legally buy his lands from him at a relatively reasonable price. Vanderbilt always felt that he had fallen into Liang Zhao's trap, but for the huge amount of gold, he was willing to give it a try. As the saying goes, wealth and honor are sought in danger. There are not many such opportunities in life, and he is just a person who is good at capturing business opportunities and seizing opportunities. After returning to San Francisco, the prospecting team members sent by the Astor family were in a mess, and they all stood in tattered clothes at the gate of Tingtao Garden waiting for Liang Zhao. Mr. Liang, thank God, we finally waited for you. If you don't come back, I'm afraid we will starve to death here. After experiencing the beatings these days, Adar Astor had to lower his proud head in front of Liang Zhao. Their supplies had been exhausted, and without Liang Zhao's permission, no merchant in San Francisco dared to sell them supplies, so their exploration work could not proceed. As for hunting birds and beasts in the mountains for food, it was more reliable to go fishing in the sea to fill their stomachs. In the past few days, They had only caught 3 rabbits in the nearby mountains. "Have you paid the berthing fee?" Liang Zhao asked, looking at the 2 small steamers moored in the port's berthing area. Paid. Here are our receipts." Adar took out a few crumpled receipts from his pocket to prove that they had paid the berthing fee. "No need." Liang Zhao waved his hand impatiently and said to them in a cold voice. "I know your intentions. You are free to explore in California. I have no right to stop you. I have only one condition: you are not allowed to explore on my private land. Otherwise, I cannot guarantee that you will get enough supplies and your personal safety." Adar has a rough understanding of the distribution of gold mines in California these days. At present, almost all the known gold mining areas in California are distributed in Sacramento, especially near the American River. These places belong to Liang Zhao. If he wants to avoid Liang Zhao's land for exploration, he will have to walk 200 or 300 miles more. It is also unknown whether he can explore gold. What's more, he will have to face other dangers, such as attacks by Indians. In this case, it will be difficult to complete the task assigned to him by the Astor family. However, Adar can't care about so much now. The most important thing is to get supplies to survive. He and his prospecting team haven't had a decent meal for 5 days. "We will never invade your private territory." In front of Liang Zhao, Adar had to give in and grit his teeth to agree to Liang Zhao's conditions. The result of the transaction is in the next chapter. Chapter 64. Shameless. "Strauss, you look very happy." After returning to Tingtao Garden, Liang Zhao began to deal with the trivial matters accumulated in the past few days. Liang Zhao was in a good mood. He was able to pull Vanderbilt onto his pirate ship. At least he had a more reliable partner and did not have to bear the firepower of the Eastern Chaebols alone. Liang Zhao exchanged some shares of the Stonington Railway Company with the Xiangshan Gold Mining Company. Unfortunately, the old fox Vanderbilt refused Liang Zhao's participation in his shipping industry and promised to give Liang Zhao some compensation. Simonson will open a shipyard in San Francisco, and the shipyard will have shares he exchanged with the Xiangshan Gold Mining Company. Secker also saw the huge gap in the steam engine market in California and decided to move some equipment and technicians directly to San Francisco to establish a branch in California after returning. If possible, he will also open a steam engine manufacturing plant in Sacramento in the future. The steam engine manufacturing plant established by Secker in California also has shares Liang Zhao exchanged with the Xiangshan Gold Mining Company. Fan Days directly bought 3 newly built shops on the commercial street from Liang Zhao to sell daily necessities needed by the miners. The most important thing is that they all bought some land from Liang Zhao to set up their mining company in the future. The next thing Liang Zhao wanted to do was to buy a ready-made large steamship directly from Vanderbilt. He wanted to continue to speed up the immigration. Since Vanderbilt promised compensation, he would use his steamship to compensate. The canvas work clothes produced by the garment factory jointly owned by you and me are sold very well and are deeply loved and praised by the miners, Strauss said with a sense of accomplishment. "So, I can also get a considerable dividend. Of course, this little dividend is nothing to you. With the growth rate of your wealth, you will become the first multimillionaire in the West next year." Strauss is also a relatively wealthy man now, but the little money he has is not even a fraction of Liang Zhao's. But compared with the embarrassment when he first came to California, it is much better now. "It's just a multimillionaire with water injection." Liang Zhao shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I still remember your teachings to me when I first met you. You told me that products should be updated and iterated to meet the needs of customers and the market. This benefited me a lot and I have always remembered your teachings." Strauss opened his suitcase and took out a pair of strange pants from the suitcase to introduce them. "I improved the existing overalls in my spare time. I heard that the miners complained that the pockets of the pants were not strong enough. I thought of fixing the pockets with copper rivets and reinforcing the seams. The effect is very good. This is the world's first pair of jeans." Liang Zhao looked at the jeans carefully. "You are my largest shareholder. I want to hear your suggestions and hope you can give our new product a name," Strauss said. "This is a good product. I think it will sell well. Let's produce it freely. As for the name, let's call it jeans," Liang Zhao said without hesitation. Strauss thought about it and felt that the name was very good, but he was more happy to get Liang Zhao's affirmation. It is not easy to get the boss's affirmation. Strauss, Mr. Vanderbilt's inspection in California is about to end. When he returns to New York, you can take his ship to New York. Jeans are just a trivial matter. Liang Zhao now has more important things to do. That is to recruit engineers in the East, purchase machinery, and develop California's industry. Laying wire telegraph lines, building railways between Sacramento and San Francisco, expanding shipyards, building steel mills, food processing plants and other industries cannot be built with California's current industrial foundation. The fastest and most effective way is to transfer the relevant industries in the East directly to California. If possible, Liang Zhao would rather go there in person to acquire some related small and medium-sized enterprises in the East that are not doing well, preferably on the verge of bankruptcy. Why doesn't he consider large enterprises with more advanced technology, larger scale and more competitiveness? The reason is also very simple. The interest relationship behind large enterprises is more complicated. Acquiring them is not just a matter of money. Perhaps after some wrangling, he can acquire these large enterprises, but he can't wait. California is about to become a state. This is the most critical time. He must stay in California to prevent accidents. What are you going to New York for? Strauss asked, puzzled. Recruit some excellent engineers and skilled workers, acquire some factories, and I will squeeze out the water from me, Liang Zhao said. As for which industries to acquire, I will make a list for you, and I will also say hello to Mr. Vanderbilt and provide you with some help. Liang Zhao gave Strauss such an important task, which made Strauss happy and worried. He was happy that his boss trusted him, but he was worried that it would be difficult for him to complete this difficult task. Yes, boss. Strauss gritted his teeth and accepted this difficult task. Liang Zhao casually opened a letter on the table. The sender was Fremont. After receiving part of Liang Zhao's political donations, Fremont and Zhao went to Washington as quickly as possible to lobby congressmen to promote the establishment of California. The content of the letter made Liang Zhao's blood boil, and he couldn't help but punch the table hard. TMD, these sons of bitches are so shameless. Liang Zhao was so angry at these guys that he roared in his native language. The news brought back by Fremont can be said to be terrible. Congressmen and tycoons have long been in collusion, and regard the gold-producing areas of California as their own. When Fremont told them that Liang Zhao and them had the legal proof and relevant procedures for the land granted by the Mexican government, these guys sneered at it and didn't take it seriously at all. There was a worse situation. Fremont learned a piece of news through his family's relationship. When the helmsman of the Astor family, Astor Jr., and some local celebrities met with a respected old Congressman John C. Calhoun, they suggested that Congressman Calhoun not recognize the land grant from the Mexican government in California, and let the government auction these lands equally and fairly through bidding, because this is more in line with the spirit of the laws of the United States. After all, the West is a land without a master, and everyone has the right to enjoy it. Calhoun mentioned this matter in Congress and received the support of a large number of congressmen, because in this way, the government can also get a lot of financial revenue by auctioning land. However, the specific resolution has not yet been finalized, because the biggest controversy in Congress at present is whether the territories will become free states or slave states after the establishment of states. Compared with the free states and slave states, the California land bidding seems less important. However, Liang Zhao knows that the dispute between the free states and slave states will be resolved soon, and the ownership of California land will be discussed in Congress. For now, the situation is extremely unfavorable to him. Fortunately, he has signed a cooperation agreement with Vanderbilt, and 30% of the shares of Xiangshan Gold Mining Company have been transferred to them, and some of the land in Sacramento has been sold to them. At least, he is not fighting alone. Liang Zhao underestimated the shamelessness of these people after all. What democracy, freedom and equality are all bullshit. Boss, why are you angry? Although Strauss didn't understand what Liang Zhao roared just now, it was the first time he saw the boss so angry. When Brannon killed Chinese women and children indiscriminately and killed Kay Lakesey, the boss was also angry at that time, but he had never been so angry. Obviously, the situation this time is more serious. Who can be more infuriating than a villain like Brannon? Strauss thought for a long time but couldn't figure it out. Strauss, ask Henry, the newspaper's president, to come to my office. Liang Zhao closed his eyes and rubbed his temples with his index fingers. Yes, boss. Strauss didn't dare to ask more questions and quietly retreated. Chapter 65 Fremont's Ideal. Boss, you're looking for me. Henry, the president of California daily newspaper, came to see Liang Zhao with an uneasy mood. Strauss kindly reminded Henry when he came that the boss was in a rage. Even Strauss, who had been following the bus for a long time, didn't know why the bus was so angry. Do you have any acquaintances in the New York Post and the Washington Post? Liang Zhao didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Congress has already shown a tendency to not recognize the land donation from the Mexican government, and we must prepare for the worst. It is foolish to pin hopes on the pity of those politicians and tycoons, and Liang Zhao does not have such unrealistic fantasies. Compared with them, Brannan is a great philanthropist. If Brannan is a real villain, then Astor and his ilk are hypocrites. If they set their sights on California's golden land, they will not rob it with real knives and guns like Brannan, but will obtain your land through so-called legal channels. This legal channel is Congress. In the eyes of these people, Congress is nothing more than a tool for personal gain. Boss, are you kidding? These are some of the biggest newspapers in the U.S. If I had connections there, why would I come to California? Henry said in surprise. It doesn't matter if I don't have any. Do you know how much it costs to buy an influential newspaper? Liang Zhao wanted to buy an influential newspaper in the East to influence public opinion. He already had control over the direction of public opinion in California, but that was far from enough. California was not even a state at the moment, and Congress would not listen to the voices of the people of California. There were many gold diggers from the East in California, and their relatives were all in the East, which could be used. You mean the newspapers in the East? Nonsense. Is there any newspaper in California worth buying? $100,000 can buy an influential newspaper, such as the Washington Republic where my brother works. Although the Washington Republic is not as famous as the New York Post and the Washington Post you mentioned, it is still quite influential in the local area. Its influence in the industry is roughly the same as that of the New York Evening Post. Henry was about to tell Liang Zhao that it was very expensive to buy a newspaper, but then he thought that his boss was the last thing he lacked was money, and $100,000 was nothing to him. The boss wanted to enter the newspaper industry in the East? Henry was thinking wildly. Liang Zhao had never heard of the Washington Republic, and he had not collected any newspapers of the Washington Republic. However, Liang Zhao collected a lot of the New York Evening Post, and most of Vanderbilt's gossip was collected from the New York Evening Post. Henry, do you want to do something bigger, such as being the editor-in-chief of a big newspaper? Liang Zhao asked, turning the pen in his hand. Boss, are you going to enter the newspaper industry in the East? Henry's eyes lit up and he said excitedly. Although the California Daily has a monopoly in California, it has almost no competitors. However, California has a limited population, and the California Daily only publishes more than 10,000 copies a day, so its market and influence are really limited. Going to the East to make a big splash is exactly what he wants, especially since he has a powerful sponsor like Liang Zhao behind him. This sponsor is willing to lose money to publish newspapers, and there are not many sponsors as generous as Liang Zhao in the whole United States. Just answer my questions. Liang Zhao was a little impatient. Of course, Henry answered decisively, fearing that he would miss this rare opportunity. Very good, you go back to hand over your work, pack up and get ready, and take Mr. Vanderbilt's ship to New York in a few days. At this time in Washington, due to the American-style capitalist system, Washington had been arguing for a full 6 months about whether the territories would become free states or slave states after the establishment of the state. Since the representatives of the North and the South refused to give in, the first round of debates failed to make a conclusion. Next month, the two sides will start the second round of debates to decide the fate of California, Utah, and New Mexico, which were annexed from Mexico 2 years ago. California, Utah, and New Mexico are not the same as California, Utah, and New Mexico in later generations. Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona in later generations are also included in these regions. In this turbulent wave of American politics, two small figures from California are running around for their interests in California and their own political future. Fremont and Gwen strolled down the streets of Washington. Perhaps in their respective hometowns, they were both famous big figures. But in Washington, where political bigwigs gather, they are all insignificant and unknown little figures. Fremont, I think we are doing useless work. The two of us are like headless flies, running around in Washington. No one will listen to our voices, Gwen said very frustratedly. His spirit was very depressed. Gervin, cheer up. We are the future senators of California, and we must be responsible for the people of California. Fremont shook Gervin's shoulders to encourage him. Useless Fremont? Astor Jr., and the tycoons around him are determined to swallow up the land in California. Even a respected old congressman like Calhoun has stated that he does not recognize the land grant from the former Mexican government. Who is Calhoun? He was a senior congressman during the Madison and Monroe presidency, 1809 to 1825, and he also served as vice president and secretary of state. He is like a mountain that is difficult to climb and cross before us. Gervin shook his head helplessly. He had completely lost confidence. Fuck the mountains. I have climbed the highest mountains in the United States, the Nevada mountains, the Rocky Mountains. I am the first American to reach California after crossing the Nevada mountains, Fremont cursed. So what if he's old? Calhoun is just an old fool. Do you know what other ridiculous proposals this old man has made in Congress? He asked for a constitutional amendment to establish an unprecedented dual presidential system. The North and the South each elect a president and enjoy the same veto power. This is simply dividing America. Such congressmen should not be respected and should get out of Congress. Fremont was furious when he thought of Calhoun. Calhoun, this old guy, was half buried in the ground, but he was still jumping like this. Let Liang Zhao give up the land in Sacramento? He already has a lot of money. Enough to fund our campaign for the Senate in California. We don't have to go against these old congressmen for those lands. This will affect our political future. Gerwin still backed down. Fremont's heartfelt words just now did not move him. Fremont felt very speechless about such a colleague. He seemed to understand why Gerwin had been a congressman for so many years but still could not become a senator. Gwen, just because of what you said, you are not worthy of being a senator of California, and you are not worthy of representing the people of California. Liang Zhao is not only the financial sponsor of our business, but also New York, Massachusetts, Virginia, North and South Carolina. Which state does not have its own consortium? Giving up the land of California is equivalent to giving up the consortium of California. How long do you think you can be a senator like this? Astor, Livingston or other consortiums, they only think about how to plunder California's gold. Maybe they will show their gratitude to the federal government to give back to the congressmen who support them, but they will not leave much tax revenue for California. Without tax revenue, how can you carry out various tasks after the establishment of the state? Even if we become senators of California, what does it matter? We are just puppets in Congress, and no one will listen to our voices. Do you want to be such a senator? I can't influence your decision. You can choose to go or stay, Fremont said passionately and emotionally, not caring about the strange looks that passers-by gave him like a madman. Perhaps in the eyes of these passers-by, California is a remote place far away from the sunshine of civilization. But Fremont didn't think so. He was the first American to arrive in California, and he was famous in America because of this. He had feelings and obsessions for that land that others could not understand. Fremont was not satisfied with being just a puppet congressman who did nothing. He remembered the United Mining Company that he founded with Liang Zhao that day, and the blueprint of the future California that they imagined together. The two of them also forged a deep friendship, appreciated each other, and even had a feeling of cherishing each other. They had a lot in common. California will become the richest state in the United States, and Fremont also firmly believed that California, where gold is everywhere, has such potential. He hoped that after 100 years, Californians and future generations would remember him, remember that there was such a California senator who worked hard for the prosperity of California. Fremont calculated the date. At this time, Liang Zhao should have seen the letter he sent by someone. He believed that Liang Zhao was not an insect like Gerwen, and Liang Zhao was ready to face the storm. After speaking, Fremont no longer paid attention to the timid Gerwen. He turned around and left Gerwen without looking back. Fremont, where are you going? Perhaps Fremont's words awakened Gerwen, and Gerwen hurriedly followed Fremont's footsteps. Go back and bring the California Star to visit the vice president, Gerwen heard Fremont's resounding voice. Chapter 66, The Struggle Between the Old and the New and the Struggle Between the North and the South. Vice President Millard Fillmore met Fremont and Guwon in his modest home. His clothes were as plain as his home, not because the vice president practiced frugality, but because he was really poor. Fillmore came from a very humble background. He was born into a poor family of tenant farmers and had no formal education. He was self-taught. He was very good at political speculation. At the age of 29, he became a New York state legislator and began to enter politics. Just 3 years later, he was elected to the U.S. Congress. Until he became vice president, he was still quite young, only 47 years old. President Taylor's health was getting worse day by day. Fillmore, who had a keen political sense, had a hunch that he would become the second person in American history to ascend to the presidency as vice president. Fremont and Goodwin, who came to visit, were both relatively young, and their age immediately won the favor of the vice president. Fillmore was in favor of compromise proposals. He believed that politics should be flexible, so he disliked those veteran members of Congress who were born during the founding period. They were clinging to the old ways, dragging the whole country into the abyss for their own selfish interests, but he could only kowtow in front of these old congressmen. In contrast, young politicians were much more flexible. Mr. Vice President, please look at the California Star. Fremont and Goodwin took great pains to lift the wooden box containing the California Star to the table in the hall. The so-called California Star was the big gold that was accidentally found when the riverbed of the American River was blasted that day. Although Fillmore was relatively poor, he was also a well-known figure in the political circle and a man who had seen the world. When a piece of gold weighing 145.77 kg was displayed in front of him, Fillmore was still conquered by this huge piece of gold. Fillmore pretended to be calm, carefully observed the huge piece of gold with a magnifying glass, and then gave a heartfelt admiration. Gift crab. This is a great gift from God to America. It is really a natural gold nugget. It is also a great gift to you, Mr. President, Fremont said, and his title was bold. It's the Vice President. Although this likable young man was very sensible and Fillmore was very pleased with this title, he still corrected their mistakes in a serious manner. At the same time, Fillmore also understood the principle of not visiting the temple for no reason. I have also heard about your two affairs. California's establishment as a state is a foregone conclusion. If you want to become a senator in California, you should go back and win the support of California voters. It's useless for you to come to me. We are here for the future stability of America, Fremont said neither humbly nor arrogantly. It's about the land grant from the Mexican government. Fillmore frowned slightly. This is indeed a very difficult matter. I can understand your feelings. Not only California has land grants from the Mexican government, but Texas, New Mexico and even Utah also have a lot of land grants from the Mexican government. If California sets a bad precedent, it will be difficult to predict what the consequences will be. It seems that Fillmore and they agree with each other, and Fremont continues to strike while the iron is hot. Those tycoons who claim to be old nobles are frequent tax evaders. If the gold in California is divided up by them, the federal government will not gain much substantial benefit from this gold rush, and the treasury will not become full. Fillmore stared at Fremont quietly. He admired this bold young political novice very much. He also agreed with Fremont's point of view. Fillmore knew better than Fremont what kind of character those tycoons who came from plantation owners and big landowners were. He also hated those old guys, because these old guys had not yet achieved the statehood of the territories. However, as a mature politician, he would not express any of his personal opinions without being completely sure. The future of the United States belongs to younger, more far-sighted and ambitious young politicians, not those old antiques who regard themselves as elders of the United States. Their thoughts and vision have not kept up with the times. This is Fillmore's opinion. Are you still interested in politics? In the study, Vanderbilt flipped through Liang Zhao's clippings without Liang Zhao's consent. Liang Zhao had long been accustomed to this, since the clippings were not secrets anyway. If you want to be a successful businessman, you must first understand politics. We Chinese have a saying that the poor should not fight the rich, and the rich should not fight the officials. You may not fight with them, but you must understand them. It's an interesting saying. Vanderbilt put down the newspaper in his hand and sat down. He suddenly became interested. I want to hear your opinion on free states and slave states. This is the hottest political topic at the moment, and it is also closely related to California. The issue between free states and slave states is not so much a question of ideals and principles as it is a question of economic interests and paths between the northern and southern states, Liang Zhao said without hesitation. Tell me more in detail. Vanderbilt crossed his legs. Tariff issue. I think Mr. Vanderbilt should know this better than me. In 1850, the voices of the North-South split and abolitionism were raging. This was the seed planted at the beginning of the founding of the United States, 60 years ago. Britain's traditional art of laying mines and stirring up trouble in the colonies has never disappointed anyone. When the United States was still a British colony, Britain placed the few industries in North America in the North, while the South practiced slavery and planted cotton to provide cheap raw materials for the textile industry in Britain. The founders of the United States also realized this. When Jefferson drafted the draft of the Declaration of Independence, there was such a clause: slavery was imposed on the United States by Britain. However, this move caused a strong backlash from the Southern states. In order to win the support of the South, the North had to remove this clause from the official document and recognized the legitimacy of slavery in the United States. The capital was also moved from Philadelphia to Washington, further south, and the United States was established under the compromise of both sides. The most direct manifestation of the conflict between the North and the South is the issue of tariffs. The South hopes to lower tariffs to facilitate the export of their cotton, sugar, tobacco and other products to Europe in exchange for advanced industrial products in Europe. The North hopes to raise tariffs and restrict imports to protect its own industry and commerce. Since 1815, the U.S. tariff has been up and down like a roller coaster, which is the result of the game between the North and the South in Congress. Tariffs, well said, really hit the nail on the head. You have a talent for business as well as politics, Vanderbilt asked, slapping the armrest of the sofa with his hands. Do you support the North or the South? Liang Zhao knew that Vanderbilt was leaning towards the North, but this question didn't mean much to Liang Zhao. He didn't even have the qualifications to take sides now. He handed Fremont's letter to Vanderbilt. I support California. This was Liang Zhao's answer. Whether it was the South or the North, he would support whoever supported the legitimacy of the Mexican government's land grant. Chapter 67, Digging the Panama Canal? For the helmsman Yumengwa Imajia Zheng, Vanderbilt carefully looked at the letter Liang Zhao handed him. After reading the letter, Vanderbilt's heart was not too turbulent, as if everything was within his expectations. There is no free lunch in the world. From the moment he got involved in California Gold, he was ready to be enemies with these financial groups. But the speed of these financial groups' reaction was beyond his imagination. It is rumored that Astor Jr. is good at maintaining the status quo, but not aggressive enough. This view is biased in his opinion. It is true that Astor Jr.'s ability may not be as good as his father, the founder of the Astor family, Old Astor. But his ability is still unquestionable, at least better than his son Vanderbilt. In the case of the economic downturn in the United States, the safest way is to continue to invest in real estate in New York. At any time, collecting rent is a business that is sure to make a profit. Astor Jr. reached out to California Gold while investing in New York real estate, which shows that his vision is still good. How are you going to deal with it? Vanderbilt returned the letter to Liang Zhao. I have the people of California behind me. Of course, it is far from enough to rely on the people of California alone. California is not strong enough now, Liang Zhao said after sorting out his thoughts. The East needs our voice. We cannot win the sympathy of the tycoons, but we can win the sympathy of the people in the East. Especially the sympathy of the Texans. Although Texas was born out of the Lone Star Republic, the land in the hands of those immigrants was, after all, a gift from the Mexican government. If the government insists on taking back the land in California, it will also make them feel uneasy. What we have to do is to amplify this uneasy feeling. Liang Zhao was able to remain calm in this situation and come up with a reasonable response plan, which Vanderbilt appreciated. Although I have not been involved in the newspaper industry, I still have some connections in the media circle. If Congress passes a bill to reclaim California land, it will be unconstitutional. I don't think all congressmen are so brainless. I also have some friends in Texas. When I go back to New York, I can just visit them on the way. I will ask Henry to buy several influential newspapers in New York and Washington. If Henry needs Mr. Vanderbilt's help, I hope Vanderbilt will lend a hand. Liang Zhao was willing to spend the money he should spend. If the land in California was taken back by the federal government, all his efforts would be in vain. It would be too late to spend money to buy public opinion. Vanderbilt's decisive attitude was beyond Liang Zhao's expectations. He thought Vanderbilt would waver on this matter. It seems that he was judging others by his own standards. Vanderbilt was much more courageous than the Vanderbilt he remembered. Perhaps this was the reason why Vanderbilt, a man of mud legs, could rise in New York, a place full of elders from noble families. The easiest way would be to buy it directly, Vanderbilt said. I can go around for you in New York and Philadelphia, but in California, it's up to you. Vanderbilt felt a little dry in the mouth, so he drank a cup of tea and continued. I want to connect the waters in Nicaragua and widen them so that larger ships can pass through and improve the transportation efficiency from the east to California. This requires a lot of manpower. The labor cost in America is very high. Of course, I can also hire local natives and native whites. They are cheaper than American workers, but I have visited Nicaragua and found that they are too lazy. It is not wise to hire them. I also visited Chinese immigrants in California. They are very hardworking and can endure hardships. So I want to recruit some Chinese workers through your channels to help me open up the water system in Nicaragua. I will not let you help in vain. I will re-establish the California Shipping Company, with the two of us holding shares and monopolizing this route together. Vanderbilt thought of what he saw and heard on the Sacramento that day. He was impressed by the Chinese immigrants who reclaimed land on both sides of the American River under the scorching sun. I have also learned scattered information about China from some missionaries before. You built a canal that runs from north to south and is nearly 1,000 miles long more than 1,200 years ago. More than 2,000 years ago, in order to resist the invasion of foreign races, you built a wall thousands of miles long in the north. I was skeptical about these news until I saw those hard-working Chinese immigrants with my own eyes. Mr. Vanderbilt, I can tell you responsibly that these are all true, but these great miracles are piled up with thousands of corpses. Such miracles are not worth boasting about. Vanderbilt wanted to hire some Chinese workers to realize his ambitions in Nicaragua. Liang Zhao did not object. He also hoped that more Chinese workers could come to the United States and gradually enhance the voice of Chinese in the United States. The premise is that they must be given due respect and treatment. Instead of deducting the wages of Chinese workers to only 1/31 of white workers, like Leland Stanford did when he built the Pacific Railway. If you are willing to obtain legal American citizenship for them and give them a salary that is not much different from that of white workers, I think you can attract a lot of Chinese workers to immigrate here. As for the language communication problem, I can set up a labor dispatch company to solve it. When the project and labor contract are over, these workers will decide whether to stay or leave. However, my personal suggestion is that the first choice is to dig a canal connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans in Panama. Panama has a much broader prospect than Nicaragua. Panama can directly pass large ships, while Nicaragua needs a combination of land and shipping. In the next few years, we will also have enough financial resources to support this huge project. Vanderbilt's idea of hiring Chinese workers is nothing more than the cost-effectiveness of Chinese workers. If the labor cost of Chinese workers is similar to that of American workers, using Chinese workers will not be attractive to Vanderbilt. After all, Vanderbilt is a capitalist, not a great philanthropist. All Liang Zhao can do is try his best to get better conditions for his compatriots. At that time, the cost of American labor was 5 or 6 times that of the Qing dynasty. As long as the wages of Chinese workers were not much different from those of American workers, they could live a better life here than in the Qing dynasty. At the same time, Liang Zhao also gave his pertinent advice. Compared with connecting the water system in Nicaragua, he hoped that Vanderbilt would end the Panama Canal directly. If this canal was dug, tolls could be collected for a long time in the future. If possible, I would also prefer to dig a canal directly in Panama. I have a close relationship with the senior officials of the Republic of New Granada. They also welcome foreign capital to participate in this great project. However, the route from the eastern United States to Panama is now controlled by William Aspinwall, the Pacific Mail Steamship Company. I currently have no right to get involved in this route, otherwise I will offend everyone in the government, which is not worth the loss. Moreover, Nicaragua also has the advantage of Nicaragua. This route is 500 miles shorter than the Panama route, which can save 2 days. Of course, as you said, the disadvantages of this route are obvious. It requires a combination of shipping and land transportation. Ships, especially large ships, cannot cross Nicaragua directly, which limits the transportation of goods. Passengers go up the San Juan River, cross the 100-mile-long Lake Nicaragua, and then need to change to a carriage and travel 7.5 miles to reach the Pacific coast, where they can change to a ship to California. Nicaragua is 7.5 kilometers from the Pacific Ocean. This section of the land is a mountainous area. The geological conditions are not suitable for digging artificial canals. This is the biggest disadvantage of this route. Note, Nicaragua is a small country on the Isthmus of Central America. Thanks to Huanainian Yaolimeng Yike for the 100 rewards and Awiming for the 1,500 rewards. Chapter 68, Thanks and additional chapters. Thank you all for your support. With everyone's efforts, this book will finally be on PC next week. This is the best recommendation position this book has received so far. I will also fulfill my promise to add 5 more chapters. Starting from tomorrow, I will change from 2 chapters a day to 3 chapters a day until 5 more chapters are completed. At present, the collection of this book is very poor, with only over 3K, but there are probably more than 400 follow-up readers. Let's see if the PC ranking can save it next week. I will try to get one last app recommendation before it is put on the shelves. I dare not even think about Sanjiang. If I can be on Sanjiang, I will dare to add 10 chapters. Finally, I ask for votes and follow-up reading from everyone. Thank you all for your support along the way. I have set up a group, and interested book friends are welcome to join the group for discussion. Group number 397,266,558. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Loss-Making Business. How many laborers do you need? Liang Zhao asked Vanderbilt how many laborers he needed. He was now eager to immigrate more laborers from the Qing dynasty. Since Vanderbilt was interested in recruiting some Chinese laborers, he was also happy to help Vanderbilt and get a favor. 1,000. After a brief thought, Vanderbilt gave a number that he thought was relatively bold. Based on his investigation in San Francisco these days, he roughly estimated that the number of Chinese immigrants in San Francisco was about 5,000. His number was already 1/5 of the number of Chinese immigrants in San Francisco. If there's not 1,000, 700 or 800 will be fine. I will find a way to fill the remaining labor gap myself, Vanderbilt immediately added. Compared to your huge project, 1,000 laborers are too few. How about 2,000 young and strong laborers? Within 8 months, I will bring you 2,000 young and strong laborers, but Mr. Vanderbilt will have to go to the Immigration Bureau a few more times. Liang Zhao reported a number that made Vanderbilt dumbfounded. Recruiting 2,000 laborers within 8 months? Vanderbilt couldn't believe this number. Are you sure you can recruit 2,000 workers within 8 months? If you can, my project in Nicaragua will start early next year, Vanderbilt said in disbelief. If you don't trust me, we can sign a contract. If I fail to fulfill the contract, I will compensate you for all your losses. But I have 2 conditions, Liang Zhao said. Which 2 conditions? Liang Zhao said so much, and Vanderbilt knew that he was very sure. The first condition is that you need to draft a labor employment contract for me to review, including the employment period, their salary and other issues. I will send people back with your contract to recruit workers, no problem. The second condition is that I need a large steamship. You know that my global shipping company only has a few merchant ships of several hundred tons, and only 2 of them are steamships, which are relatively old steamships. These ships cannot safely cross the Pacific Ocean to reach the Qing dynasty. Liang Zhao showed his true colors and asked Vanderbilt for a steamship. You promised that if I gave up my shares in your shipping company, you would give me corresponding compensation. If you want compensation, you can give me the 4 steamships parked in the port of San Francisco. As far as I know, except for the James Day, the cost of the other 3 steamships is no more than $200,000, and the value of the shares you promised me is much more than that. After careful calculation, you still made a lot of money. Vanderbilt looked at the port of San Francisco. The excellent geographical location of Tingtao Garden can overlook the entire San Francisco Bay. The 4 large steamships of more than 1,000 tons stand out against the small boats of several hundred tons in the port. Liang Zhao was right. In addition to the James Day, which was positioned as a luxury passenger ship and cost as much as $250,000, the other 3 steamships were passenger and cargo steamships, and the cost was not high, all around $150,000 or $160,000. Are you sure? Since you know the cost of steamships, I think you should know that the total cost of these 4 ships is only more than $700,000, and the shares I promised you are worth more than $1.5 million, Vanderbilt said in disbelief. Sure. I will also place a shipbuilding order directly with your shipyard and your friend's shipyard for the remaining difference. If Liang Zhao was not in a hurry to use the ship, he would not have done a loss-making business with Vanderbilt. I can't compensate you for the James Day. I need to take it to Nicaragua. I can compensate you for the remaining 3 steamships now, but what about the crew on them? Do you have enough crew to drive these steamships? Training skilled crew members and captains is a very troublesome thing, and it takes enough time, Vanderbilt said. The problem he was worried about. They will sign a new employment contract with me and become employees of Global Shipping Company. Mr. Vanderbilt, I don't think you will mind if I poach your people. The problem that Vanderbilt was worried about was also the problem that Liang Zhao was worried about. He bought Vanderbilt's ship just to save time. He couldn't wait to train the crew. The best way was to hire the crew together. As long as you agree to one condition, it's fine. The captains and sailors under Vanderbilt were the best talents in the industry. It was more painful to give up these crew members than to give up his ship. In this regard, he also put forward his request. You say, Liang Zhao said. Regarding my disappointing son Connie, he has always been a pain in my heart. Vanderbilt confided his feelings to Liang Zhao. I am worried that after my death, the Vanderbilt family will have no successors and will decline. So I want Connie to experience by your side and learn something from you. Vanderbilt paused and continued. I am not talking to you as a businessman now, but as a father. I haven't asked anyone for help for a long time. I hope Connie can turn over a new leaf and find the direction of his life again. Vanderbilt's voice became smaller and smaller, perhaps because he felt embarrassed to ask a young man who was not even half his age. Poor parents, the Vanderbilt family really couldn't escape the curse of wealth not lasting more than 3 generations. Among the second generation of the family, the second son Connie was not promising. The youngest son George Washington died in the Civil War, and the eldest son William Henry later showed his talent in business and pushed the Vanderbilt family to the peak of glory. However, this was only a flash in the pan. After William Henry's death, the Vanderbilt family fell into a state of no successor. None of the third generation of the family could carry the family's beams, and the Vanderbilt family eventually declined rapidly in the Gilded Age. In terms of family education, the Rockefeller family did much better than the Vanderbilt family. Its family has gone through 6 generations of ups and downs without decline, breaking the curse of wealth not lasting more than 3 generations. It's okay to let Connie stay with me, but how do you plan to let Connie stay with me? As my employee or as my partner? Liang Zhao asked. Become your employee. Vanderbilt thought about it seriously and said, perhaps as peers, you should have more common language. Although I like to beat him, I also know that beating him will not change him. The only function is to vent my anger and emotions. Vanderbilt finally decided to let the second son of the Vanderbilt family work for Liang Zhao, so that he could have more constraints on Connie. As long as you can convince him to sign an employment contract, I have no objection. Liang Zhao took out a piece of white paper from the desk. Don't worry, I will definitely convince him. Vanderbilt stretched his muscles and said confidently. There is a double monthly ticket event now. Asking for monthly tickets from everyone. At least 3 updates today. Chapter 70 Elizabeth's Request. Mr. Liang, can I come in? As soon as Vanderbilt left, Elizabeth knocked on the door of Liang Zhao's office. Miss Elizabeth? What can I do for you? Liang Zhao closed the document he was reviewing, put down the pen in his hand and asked. After obtaining Liang Zhao's consent, Elizabeth walked in and moved a chair to Liang Zhao's desk, sitting down facing Liang Zhao. I want to do business with my father, but my father thinks that learning business is a boy's thing, but I don't think so. Your cousin is younger than me, but she can manage a bank for you in an orderly manner. I envy her very much for having such an open-minded cousin like you, Elizabeth said with envy. It's useless to envy my cousin, and her ability is not as strong as you think. You have to talk to your father about this matter, Liang Zhao said. I have discussed this with my father. He gave me $1,000 and promised that as long as I turned this $1,000 into $3,000 in 1 year and proved to him that I have a talent for business, he would let me do business. As she spoke, Elizabeth took out a stack of $100 banknotes issued by the Lexington Northern Bank and played with them in her hands. This is the first time I have received so much money from my father since I was a child. He has always been stingy. He's sure that I can't turn this $1,000 into $3,000 in 1 year. It shows that your Vanderbilt family has a good family tradition. Liang Zhao did not ask Elizabeth's age. Westerners look more mature during adolescence. It is difficult for Liang Zhao to infer Elizabeth's specific age through her appearance. But Liang Zhao knew that Connie was 19 years old this year. If Elizabeth called Connie brother, she must be younger than Connie. In 1829, Vanderbilt had developed a small shipping company with only one ship into a large company with 7 ships. Liang Zhao didn't know whether Vanderbilt had become a millionaire at that time, but his financial conditions in 1829 were definitely not bad. Elizabeth was born after Vanderbilt became rich. Vanderbilt still did not indulge his children financially, which showed that he was still strict in disciplining his children. What's the use? After getting the money, Connie is still the same as those playboys in New York, Elizabeth complained about her brother. She and Connie are about the same age. When they were young, Elizabeth often teased Connie with her mother's love. She and Connie had the best relationship among all her brothers and sisters. Connie became the kind of person she hated the most, and Elizabeth was also very uncomfortable. I think you came to me today to ask me to give you some advice on how to make $3,000 in a year with the $1,000 in your hand. Liang Zhao guessed Elizabeth's intention. Elizabeth nodded like a pound of garlic. My father thinks highly of you, and when we first met, he offered you a cigarette. There are very few people who can make my father offer you a cigarette, so I would like to ask you to give me an idea. I am sure that I can turn $1,000 into $1,500 within a year, but $3,000 is too difficult for me, especially now that the American economy is not doing well. At this time, Strauss brought 2 cups of tea. Elizabeth took the tea handed over by Strauss and said thank you to Strauss. Liang Zhao took a sip of the warm tea to moisten his throat. He thought that Connie became what he is today mostly because of family reasons. If he could know some family situations of the Vanderbilt family, he might be able to get Connie back on track. Connie will become his employee, and at the same time a hot potato. He does not want Connie to be a waste who only knows how to eat, drink, gamble, and make trouble everywhere in California after becoming his employee. Of course, he can also choose to treat Connie coldly, but it will be difficult to explain to Vanderbilt if he does so. I can show you a way to get rich and let you fulfill your father's request within a year, but in exchange, I want to know some stories about your family, that is, some stories about your brothers and sisters and Mr. Vanderbilt. My father often said that he had a big family, but no one could do anything, especially my brother and younger brother George Washington, who only caused trouble for him. Elizabeth looked bitter, and treated Liang Zhao as a confidant, and told Liang Zhao about the past between her family members. My father devoted himself to his business and was often away from home. In his early years, he didn't even ask about his brothers and sisters. It was only in recent years that things got better. Elizabeth and her brothers and sisters grew up with their mother Sophia, and occasionally helped their mother Sophia run the hotel, because they all lived on the income from running the hotel, and their father was very stingy with family members. Her brothers and sisters had a lot of complaints about their father, especially Connie, who even said that my father, who came out of nowhere, married my mother in his busy schedule and gave birth to me, a burden. Of course, Connie also paid the price for his quick tongue. He was beaten by Vanderbilt and Sophia and could not get out of bed for a whole week. The reason why Elizabeth remembered it so clearly was that she was the one who brought Connie meals every day when he was bedridden. If I have a family in the future, I hope my husband will not be like my father, who only cares about business and ignores family. After saying that, Elizabeth said with emotion, I think you will find a qualified husband, Miss Elizabeth. Tell me how you originally planned to use this $1,000, Liang Zhao said with 2 dry coughs. Talking about business, Elizabeth regained her spirits. I originally planned to purchase some furs here and sell them back in New York, but due to the influence of the gold rush, everything in California is more expensive than in New York, and purchasing goods here is not a wise choice. Have you visited my restaurant? Liang Zhao asked. Is it the restaurant where you sell sandwiches and hamburgers? Elizabeth replied. I have investigated it. It's a good idea. However, I only have $1,000. I can only open 2 restaurants like yours in New York at most. It's a bit unrealistic to expect to recover the investment and make $2,000 in 1 year with 2 restaurants. After all, I can't sell sandwiches and hamburgers as expensively as you do in New York. Moreover, I need to pay you to buy the food formula, which is also an expense. You don't need to open 2 restaurants. You only need to open 1 restaurant. You only need to spend half a year to run this restaurant well, build up the business, and spread the reputation. Then spend a little money to place an advertisement in the newspaper to recruit franchisees. Liang Zhao provided Elizabeth with a new idea. Franchise. Elizabeth took out a pen and paper from her handbag and listened carefully to Liang Zhao's words, afraid of missing a word. It is a new business model. The franchisee will provide you with a considerable franchise fee at one time. Of course, you can also get a certain commission from their operating profits later. You only need to authorize them to use your store name, provide food recipes, and guide them on how to operate. If you are more unscrupulous, you may also take over the decoration of their store and make a profit from the difference. You can even require them to buy ingredients only from you, and the price of ingredients is determined by you as the leader. Of course, the premise of all the above is that you will attract franchisees only if you make the first store prosperous. I suggest you open a fast food restaurant near Wall Street or a construction site. They are the busiest people in the city and have little time to eat. Fast food is very attractive to them. Liang Zhao thought of himself working on Wall Street in the future. In order to save time, he often ate fast food at work, so that he had health problems in the end. I am deeply inspired. Elizabeth felt as if she had suddenly seen a new world. She looked at Liang Zhao with admiration. My father is right, you are a business genius. You can make a fortune even in New York, maybe, but it's more difficult than in California. Compared to making money in New York, I prefer to make money directly in California. Miss Elizabeth, I have to remind you that the entry threshold of the catering industry is very low. I can only assure you that this model can make money in the early stage and meet your father's requirements. Later, you will encounter more and more imitators and competitors. Whether you can continue to make money at that time depends on your personal ability. There will be another update in the evening. Don't forget to read it. Chapter 71, Going to School is the Way Out for Most People. Since Liang Zhao became the actual controller of California, although there was cholera, California was still full of vitality and everything was flourishing. Liang Zhao rode to the port of San Francisco. He had two things to do today. One was something K. Mingsheng asked him to do. K. Mingsheng recognized Alan, the son of the late Jenkins, as his godson. K. Mingsheng thought that the child was smart and clever, and hoped that Liang Zhao could send him to school in the East. The other thing was to take over Vanderbilt steamship, which meant that from today on, his global shipping company officially owned steamships of more than 1,000 tons. After Jenkins' unjust death, the young Alan took on the responsibility of the family. In addition to helping his mother run the store and working part-time as a newspaper delivery man, he often went to the immigrant guest house to help. It was said that the child was very talented in languages and had mastered Chinese and some Fujian and Guangdong dialects. This surprised Liang Zhao. When passing by the immigrant guest house, Liang Zhao saw little Alan at a glance. The blonde and blue-eyed little Alan stood out among a group of Chinese immigrants. The work at the immigrant hostel was not easy. Every day, there were at least 30 Chinese immigrants arriving in San Francisco, and at most dozens of them. Alan, K. Mingsheng, who was traveling with Liang Zhao, called out his godson Alan's name. Seeing that it was Liang Zhao and K. Mingsheng, Alan immediately ran out of the immigrant hostel and stood in front of the two of them obediently. Your godfather asked me to send you to school in the East. Go back and pack your things. Tomorrow you will take Mr. Vanderbilt's ship to New York. When you arrive in New York, he will arrange everything for you. In order to test little Alan, Liang Zhao deliberately spoke to little Alan in Chinese. Sir, I don't want to go to school in the East. Little Alan shook his head and answered in fluent Chinese. I went to elementary school in Philadelphia for a few years. Both the teachers and classmates were snobbish. Going to school was a torment. Not only did I not learn anything in school, but I was also bullied by senior classmates. I lived a terrified life every day. It's better to be in California. Here I can make money and meet many friends. They are much more interesting than my classmates in school. Little Alan was very repulsive and disgusted with going to school and said he didn't want to go to school in the East. Although Alan's speech speed is slow and the pronunciation of some words is strange, he still has no problem communicating in Chinese. It seems that he is indeed very talented in languages. I will find a good school for you, so that such things will not happen again. If you don't go to school, you will have no culture and it will be difficult to have a promising future, Liang Zhao said. K. Mingsheng scolded Alan as if he was teaching his own child. Asshole. Your father wanted to go to school before but didn't have the chance. Don't be shameless, Mr. Vanderbilt dropped out of school at the age of 11. He is now one of the richest people in the United States, Alan argued. It can be seen that going to school has nothing to do with whether you have a promising future. Excuse me, sir, is Mr. Vanderbilt a person with no future? K. Mingsheng was so angry that he waved the whip in his hand to whip Alan. You dare to talk back? Liang Zhao stopped Ming Sheng and said to Alan with a serious expression. Alan, Mr. Vanderbilt is a very promising man, but not everyone wants to be like him. Getting an education and finding a job after completing school is the way out for most people. Understand, Vanderbilt did not receive a good education, but his parents were very successful in educating him. Little Alan's father Jenkins was gone, and his mother had to raise other children, so the education that the family could provide to little Alan was very limited. Sir, have you ever been to college? Little Alan asked. Yes, little Alan fell into deep thought. After thinking for a while, he raised his head and looked up at Liang Zhao, who was much taller than him. Mr. Liang, compared to Mr. Vanderbilt, I think you are more powerful than Mr. Vanderbilt. It took Mr. Vanderbilt many years to become a rich man, but you became the richest man in the West in less than a year. I want to be your assistant like Mr. Strauss after I return from school, and become your right-hand man. Little Alan's words made Liang Zhao laugh and cry, Mr. Vanderbilt and I are not comparable. I'll look forward to you becoming my right-hand man in the future, but first, you must learn more knowledge to be qualified to be my right-hand man. Strauss received a good education and went to college. Seeing that little Alan was willing to go to school in the East, Ming Sheng was very pleased. He turned to Liang Zhao and said, Mr. Liang, this child has been yelling for me to give him a Chinese name. You are a scholar with a reputation and knowledge. Give him a Chinese name, follow your surname. Yes, follow my surname. It's better to be more Western, half Chinese and half Western. Ming Sheng thought for a while and said, Kai? Kailun? No, it's not fashionable enough. Just call him Zeiss, Liang Zhao said without hesitation. After naming little Alan, Sven ran over happily, as excited as a child. Global Shipping Company has a large steamship, and Sven's dream for many years has finally become a reality. Captain Sven, you look very happy. Liang Zhao was as happy as Sven. With a large steamship, he could directly cross the Pacific Ocean and transport compatriots who were eager to immigrate from the other side of the ocean to California, speeding up the immigration process. However, Liang Zhao also had to face two more headaches with a large number of immigrants, one from the Qing government and the other from the American government. The Qing government was easy to deal with. The Qing dynasty was rotten from top to bottom, and it only took some money to deal with it. Guangdong and Fujian were far away from the center of the court, and the Qing government was also out of reach on the immigration issue. Liang Zhao knew where the bottom line of the Qing government was. As long as the Jiangnan region, the financial center of the Qing government, was not touched, the resistance from the Qing government would be better than nothing. As for the governors and local officials in Guangdong and Fujian, they will not only benefit from it, but also be grateful to Liang Zhao for helping them solve the refugee problem that has troubled them. In recent years, natural disasters have occurred frequently under the rule of the Qing government, and local gentry officials have intensified their exploitation of the people. The Qing government has been constantly collecting indemnities in order to repay the indemnity in the Opium War, so that the Qing dynasty now lacks everything, except refugees. The situation in the United States is more troublesome. The large number of Chinese immigrants in California will definitely arouse the vigilance of Congress and the federal government. But there is also an opportunity to solve it. As long as the California State Assembly is established, the legality of Chinese immigrants can be directly written into the law at the Legislative Assembly. With the current state power in the United States, as long as the state law of California is not unconstitutional, the federal government will not be willing to directly intervene in California's affairs. The states of the United States are not provinces of the Qing dynasty, and they have considerable independence. Even in the 21st century, there are still many states that do not buy into the federal government's account, not to mention that it is still 1,850, and California is still a territory that the United States has just swallowed from Mexico and has not had time to digest it. This is a golden opportunity. I'm so happy, my big boss. Sven was delighted. The handover has been completed. In addition to the 3 large steamships, Global Shipping Company has 214 more skilled crew members and 3 excellent captains. It's 4 ships, Liang Zhao corrected. After Mr. Vanderbilt arrives in Nicaragua, the James Day will return to San Francisco and be handed over to Global Shipping Company. So I have a new flagship again. Sven was overjoyed. He looked at the James Day anchored in the port of San Francisco and almost drooled. 3 more chapters, please read. Chapter 72 Steamship. 4 steamships with a displacement of more than 1,000 tons stand proudly in the port of San Francisco, and a group of small boats are eclipsed by their majestic appearance. The 3 large steamships that have been handed over have their new names, namely California, Oregon, and Nevada. As civilian ships, large steamships with a displacement of more than 1,000 tons in 1850 are absolutely huge monsters, representing the most advanced shipbuilding technology of this era. There are only a few shipyards in the United States that can produce large steamships. With these 3 large steamships, global shipping company has stepped into the threshold of large American shipping companies. In 1850, although steamships have made their mark, it often takes a long process for new things to replace old things, just like the dispute between fuel vehicles and electric vehicles in later generations. At this time, most of the ships sailing on the sea were still sailboats, and sail-steam hybrid ships equipped with steam boilers. Because the early steamship technology was not mature, boiler explosions occurred from time to time, and people still remain skeptical about the safety and reliability of steamships. Even the American Navy of the same period was still dominated by sailing warships. There were only 16 steamships of various types, 9 of which were mini steamships with a displacement of no more than 500 tons. For the sake of sounding good, the American Navy called them advanced small destroyers. To put it bluntly, they were just near-shore patrol boats. Like the American Army of the same period, the American Navy at this time was not considered strong in the world. However, whether it was strong or not depended on who it was compared with. Compared with Britain and France, it was indeed the younger brother, but if compared with the small sampans of the Japanese shogunate, it was the father of the father. This ship is so big and so stable. Thinking of the painful experience of riding the Cape Town, this was the most intuitive feeling that the California brought to Deng Wenyu. In the future, our San Francisco shipyard will build a more advanced and larger steamship than this one. Liang Zhao stroked the railing of the California, and the ships in the port berth area, like his subjects, crawled under the California. The California has a displacement of 1,400 tons, which is about 200 to 300 tons higher than the Oregon and Nevada. The California has a deck length of 71 meters and has 2 huge walking beam engines, with a piston stroke of 3 meters. There are 4 huge boilers, each with a diameter of 3 meters. This is the most advanced steam engine in the United States. This ship was designed by Mr. Vanderbilt himself. Vanderbilt is worthy of being a Commodore for designing such an advanced and avant-garde pure steam-powered ship. Sven was very excited. He changed his sloppy image in the past, shaved his beard, and put on a brand new captain's uniform. Whether it is the California or the James Day, these ships are just Mr. Vanderbilt's practice works. Mr. Vanderbilt's masterpiece is the Polaris, which is still lying in the dock. Liang Zhao stood with his hands behind his back, letting the salty sea breeze blow on his face. If all 3 ships are used to carry passengers, how many people can they carry? This is the question that Liang Zhao is most concerned about. Excluding the crew, the California can carry 420 passengers. The Oregon can carry 380 passengers, and the Nevada can carry 360 passengers. Although he had just taken over the ships not long ago, Sven already knew the data of the 3 ships. Such a large ship can only carry so few people. Liang Zhao frowned. He was not satisfied with this result. According to this passenger capacity, he would have to run back and forth twice to transport the 2,000 laborers needed by Vanderbilt. And his original intention of buying these ships was not to transport laborers for Vanderbilt. If you don't consider the comfort of the ship, it's no problem to double the passenger capacity. This is a pure steam-powered ship, Sven said. Is there a risk of capsizing if it is overloaded? Liang Zhao asked. As long as you don't load too much cargo, there will be absolutely no problem, Sven patted his chest and assured. Liang Zhao nodded with satisfaction. After arriving in Guangzhou, we will recruit some Chinese sailors on the spot. We will have many such steamships in the future. Sven did not have much resistance to Liang Zhao's request. When he was in the Danish Asiatic Company, the Danish boss preferred to use Danish sailors. Later, when he arrived at the British Steamship Company, the British boss also preferred to use British sailors. Liang Zhao is Chinese, so it is reasonable to hire some Chinese sailors. It is not an excessive request. Understood, boss, Sven nodded, and then asked eagerly, when will the fleet set off for Guangzhou? Looking at the vast Pacific Ocean, Sven was eager to conquer the ocean in front of him. This is the largest ocean in the world and the most dangerous ocean. Only the bravest fleets and captains have the courage to cross the Pacific Ocean. Is there enough fuel on the ship? Liang Zhao asked. Sufficient fuel, Sven replied. Prepare enough supplies and set off, but this is illegal immigration after all. What should we do if the Qing government interferes? Sven said the problem he was most worried about. When the Cape Town carried dozens of Chinese gold diggers, it used small boats to bring people up secretly. Now he is transporting more than 2,000 Chinese illegal immigrants at a time. With such a big momentum, it is certain that the local officials cannot be concealed. I will send people to bribe the local officials, and I will also select a few people who are proficient in English and Chinese from the immigrant guest house to assist you. Liang Zhao said that people who have no money need to immigrate secretly. As long as they pay enough money, those Qing officials have no bottom line at all. They are officials just to make money and will not feel bad about gold. The next day, Vanderbilt left, but not completely. Vanderbilt left his right-hand man Nigel in California to be in charge of the California Shipping Company and to prepare for the establishment of the Western Mining Company, which is the mining company led by Vanderbilt. The main shareholders are those old friends in Vanderbilt's circle. Before arriving in California, Vanderbilt's idea was to let Connie be in charge of the California Shipping Company, hoping that Connie could get training from it. But Connie's performance really disappointed Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt didn't want to repeat the same mistake. So he changed his mind. No matter how rich the Vanderbilt family is, they can't waste it like this. After weighing the pros and cons, Vanderbilt decided not to let Connie get involved in the affairs of the California Shipping Company. Instead, let Connie learn something from Liang Zhao. Connie, the second son of the Vanderbilt family, naturally didn't want to help others, but in the end Connie succumbed to Vanderbilt's fist. Chapter 73 Guangzhou Merchants. Liang Zhao inspected his new ship and the new employees of Global Shipping Company with satisfaction. Although Vanderbilt failed to educate and manage his son, he was still very successful in managing his subordinates. Many crew members and captains still missed the days of working for Vanderbilt. Just as Liang Zhao was about to leave the port and return to Tingtao Garden, two Chinese sailing ships came in with the wind and waves and sailed into the port of San Francisco. Mr. Liang Zhang, the pilot who used to order Liang Zhao around on the Cape Town. To put it nicely, he was an illegal immigration agent, and to put it bluntly, he was a transnational human trafficker. Kowtowed to Liang Zhao respectfully. I'm not an official, nor am I your parent. You don't have to bow to me, Liang Zhao said lightly. Mr. Liang is a man of honor, and those with honor will be officials in the future. Zhang Binglian spoke very nicely. Can I use the honor of the Qing dynasty to be an official in the United States? Liang Zhao just thought it was funny and didn't know how to flatter. Don't act like this. If I were a petty person, I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. I hope you can learn a lesson and stop being a dog of foreigners and bullying your compatriots by relying on the support of foreigners. What are foreigners? Foreigners are obedient in front of Mr. Liang. With Mr. Liang, I am willing to be Mr. Liang's dog, Zhang Bingliang said without thinking. Whose ships are these two ships? Liang Zhao pointed to two Chinese hard-sailing ships and said. The displacement of these two Chinese sailing ships is at least 800 tons. The sailors on the ships are also very skilled, and there are foreign employees. They are not like merchant ships that ordinary merchants can have. To go to sea under the ban of the Qing court that no one is allowed to go to sea, it requires not only courage, but also strong power and financial resources in the local area to shut up the local officials. This is the ship of Wu, the general merchant of the 13 Hongs, Zhang Bingliang said. The Wu family, yes, the ship of Master Wu Si of Jardine Maidson, Zhang Bingliang said. Master Wu Si has come here specifically to find Master Liang. I will introduce him to you right away. The Wu family is well informed, although Master Liang has only been rich for a short time. Master Liang may not know that the news of your wealth is now known to everyone in Guangzhou. Otherwise there would not be so many people risking their lives to come to Sanfin to pan for gold, Zhang Binglian, who had just gotten up from the ground, said. In the Opium War 10 years ago, Britain not only defeated the Qing dynasty, but also broke the monopoly of foreign trade of the 13 Hong merchants in the Treaty of Nanjing on the 5 ports. The so-called Southeast, Northwest, and Central, making a fortune in Guangdong has become a thing of the past. If the British East India Company won the war, then the merchants of the 13 Hongs in Guangzhou lost the war. The money for recruiting soldiers and building cannons during the war was paid by the 13 Hongs, and the 6 million taels of redemption fee for Guangzhou City was paid by the 13 Hongs. Even a large part of the war reparations was levied on these merchants. These fat merchants, in the final analysis, are just the pigs raised by the Zhao family, and they can be slaughtered whenever they want. The prosperity of Guangzhou merchants at this time is no longer what it used to be, but they have not completely lost weight, and the wealth they own is still quite scary. When I was in Guangzhou, I heard a lot of rumors about Mr. Liang. Mr. Liang is handsome and talented. Today I see that he is indeed a rare young talent. The visitor is Wu Yuanhe, the fourth son of the Wu family. Although Wu Yuanhe traveled thousands of miles across the ocean by boat, he did not look tired. Wu Yuanhe was very surprised to see Liang Zhao shave his head, but he did not show his surprise on his face. After all, he came to Sanfran this time to ask Liang Zhao for help. Mr. Wu, please come to the garden to talk. Liang Zhao always felt a little strange to call a middle-aged man a young man, but he really couldn't think of any other suitable name. Mr. Liang, if you don't mind that I am a low-class businessman, you can call me Brother Wu. My grandfather and Liang Zhao were close friends. Wu Yuanhe and Liang Zhao started to get close. When the Wu family was at its peak, Wu Bingjian and the governor of Guangdong and Guangxi were brothers. Although Liang Zhao's grandfather was Zhao, his official rank was only the 5th rank, but Zhao has always been a lowly and powerful position since the Ming dynasty, and he is a close minister of the emperor. Naturally, the Wu family dared not neglect him. Although the Wu family is not an ordinary businessman, but a veritable official businessman, the direct descendants of the Wu family all have official positions. According to the rules of the Qin dynasty, the highest title that a businessman can be awarded is the 3rd rank, but Wu Bingjian made an exception and donated a 2nd rank. Wu Yuanhe said that their grandfathers were close friends. Liang Zhao thought about it and didn't find any memory of the Wu family and the Liang family being close friends from the host. This may be the reason why his grandfather was too honest and refused to accept the money and property of the Wu family. Brother Wu, please. Liang Zhao was very polite and invited Wu Yuanhe to sit in Tingtao garden. Along the way, he was walking, muttering in his heart what the Wu family was doing by sending Wu Yuanhe to California. Could it be that the Wu family couldn't make it in China and wanted to go to America to find a new way to make money? One of my father's biggest regrets was that he didn't visit the United States. Wu Yuanhe walked and observed the city of San Francisco. He said with disappointment, "It is rumored that the United States is also a big country. San Francisco is a big city in the west of the United States. Why is it so small? It seems that it is not even as big as an ordinary county town in Guangdong." Although the Wu family has been dealing with foreigners for generations, they have never set foot on foreign land before, and their understanding of Western countries is still very limited. Brother Wu, your visit to San Francisco this time is to fulfill Mr. Wu's last wish, Liang Zhao said. At present, the core of the United States is thousands of miles away in the east, and San Francisco is a remote place. My father also bought some properties in the United States before his death. I brought all these bills with me this time. Although I am proficient in the language and writing of the United States, I don't know much about the United States, and I don't know how much these properties are worth. I will ask you for advice later. Wu Yuanhe was not polite at all, calling him brother all the time. Liang Zhao knew that the Wu family had investments in the United States. At its peak, the Wu family's assets were equivalent to the Qin court's fiscal revenue for half a year. Wu Yuanhe's father, Wu Bingjian, also knew many businessmen in the United States, and it was not uncommon for American businessmen to fool him into investing in the United States. But why did the Wu family set their sights on assets in the United States? Could it be that the Wu family is now in such a difficult situation that it can no longer continue? I've always heard that the Wu family is rich enough to rival a country. This little bit of property in America is just a drop in the bucket for the Wu family, Liang Zhao said tentatively. Things are different now, Wu Yuanhe sighed. He was very aware. When the Wu family was rich enough to rival a country, all that money was the court's money. When my father was alive, he told us brothers that the Wu family was the court's money bag, the emperor's southern treasury. It depends on when the court will reach into the money bag, the court's money bag. This metaphor sounds better than the fat pigs raised by the Zhao family, but the nature is still the same. My father bought some properties in America before he died. Now the Wu family is in trouble and needs to sell off the properties in America to recover the debts owed by American merchants. My brother Wu Shengrong has written many letters urging American merchants to sell off the Wu family's assets in America and to repay the debts owed to Jardine Mason, but the American merchants are so cunning and keep prevarication, Otherwise I would not have taken the risk to come to America. Of course, the most important thing is that I heard that Mr. Liang found several gold mountains in San Francisco, and I, your brother, also want to come and see it with my own eyes to broaden my horizons, Wu Yuanho said indignantly. Our American merchant's so untrustworthy, more than untrustworthy. It's also my father's fault that he made a mistake in judging us. These American merchants helped us when we encountered difficulties in Guangzhou. American merchants and English merchants are birds of a feather. They are the least trustworthy. Among all the foreign merchants, the Dutch merchants are the most trustworthy. Wu Yuanho became furious when it came to American merchants. Chapter 74, Can Americans donate their official positions? When Liang Zhao returned to Tingtao Garden, the servant told him that Dr. Robinson had been waiting in the hall for a long time. Dr. Robinson was in a very good mental state. From Robinson's mental state, it can be seen that cholera in California has been effectively controlled. Liang Zhao, I'm here to thank you on behalf of those cholera patients, Robinson said. They should thank you doctors who work tirelessly. Liang Zhao asked Wu Yuanho to find a place to sit down first. Wu Yuanho found a sofa and sat down, listening to the conversation between Liang Zhao and Robinson with interest. Wu Yuanho had been dealing with foreigners with his father since he was a child, and he thought that his English was very good. Unexpectedly, Liang Zhao spoke English better than him. After becoming the leader of the Boston Company, Robinson gradually developed some leadership temperament. Wu Yuanho also expected that this foreigner was not an ordinary foreigner. Without your financial support and effective organization, no matter how hard I work, it will be useless. This is the new manual I revised based on your existing cholera prevention and control manual. Now there are only more than 300 cholera patients in the hospital. Cholera in California will soon be eliminated by us, but we cannot be careless and need to prevent cholera from breaking out again. Robinson handed over his revised cholera prevention and control manual. So, we have created a miracle in medical history. Liang Zhao flipped through the cholera prevention and control manual handed to him by Robinson. Indeed. This is a great medical miracle. We have done what big cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Boston have not done. Based on the experience of these days, I have used sucrose and salt to prepare a nutrient solution with the best ratio and the easiest to be absorbed by cholera patients. It's just that the idea of preparing the nutrient solution was provided by you, and I don't know if you have the idea of registering a patent. My suggestion is to register a patent in the name of you and me, but after the patent is registered, the formula can be made public for free. Liang Zhao smiled and said, the benefits of publishing the formula of the nutrient solution to him are far greater than registering a patent. What he lacks now is reputation, not money. The simple Robinson didn't know what Liang Zhao was thinking at this time. He always thought that although Liang Zhao loved money, he was a man of high moral character. This is indeed a blessing for thousands of cholera patients, Dr. Robinson said with great joy. I was a member of the New York Medical Association. I have summarized the experience of preventing and controlling cholera in California this time, and am preparing to send it to New York. But before that, I hope to obtain your consent and get your signature. After all, you are the biggest contributor to preventing and controlling cholera in California. I am happy to sign this experience summary. This is an excellent news material, Liang Zhao said. News material? Robinson was a little puzzled. I mean that we should not only send the experience summary of our successful victory over cholera to the New York Medical Association, but also publish it in the newspaper so that more people can see it. This will have a better effect. Whether it is ordinary people, doctors or government officials, they can all obtain our experience of successfully preventing and controlling cholera more quickly. Dr. Robinson, what do you think? Why didn't I think of it? You are more thoughtful. Dr. Robinson stroked his forehead. It's been a long time since the Citizens Committee meeting was held. I think it's necessary to hold a Citizens Committee meeting in the near future. Liang Zhao changed the subject and mentioned the Citizens Committee. The Citizens Committee was originally established to deal with Brannan's threat. The participants of the Citizens Committee were mainly gold mining companies and organizations in California. After Brannan's death, the Citizens Committee did not disband. Liang Zhao knew that the Eastern Consortium was a stronger and more terrible enemy than Brannan. He was not strong enough now and did not want to fight alone when facing the threat of the Eastern Consortium. Many leaders of mining companies have mentioned this to me. They are also worried that the arrival of the Eastern Consortium will squeeze their living space. It's just that you were accompanying Mr. Vanderbilt on the inspection and I was treating cholera patients in the hospital. We were all busy and couldn't get away, Robinson said. Those gold mining companies and organizations also realized the threat that the arrival of the Eastern Consortium would pose to California. Some gold diggers had worked in certain Eastern consortiums. They left the East and went to California because they were either laid off or because the salary was too low to support their families, so they simply resigned and went to California to try their luck. They also knew that the Eastern consortiums would not be as generous as Liang Zhao when they arrived in California. They only needed to pay land rent every month to stay in Liang Zhao's private territory to pan for gold. In this regard, the interests of the gold diggers and Liang Zhao were the same. Then choose a time to hold a meeting. California is about to become a state. I think we gold diggers are the ones who can best represent the interests of the people of California, Liang Zhao said. Once the Eastern Consortium arrives, it will not be as simple as squeezing the living space of the gold diggers. They feel more uncomfortable watching others make money than losing money themselves. After sending Robinson away, Liang Zhao and Wu Yuanhou started chatting. Brother, may I ask, what does it mean to establish a state? Wu Yuanhou asked curiously. It means to establish a local government. There is no emperor in the United States. Local governments are organized by local gentry, Liang Zhao said very perfunctorily. He was not interested in explaining the political systems of the Qin dynasty and the United States to Wu Yuanhou. Without the emperor, wouldn't it be a mess? Wu Yuanhou felt very incredible. In ancient times, when there was no emperor, didn't our ancestors live well? Liang Zhao said with a smile. Brother, I wonder if you can donate an official position in America, Wu Yuanhou asked. He wondered if the Wu family could find a way out in America like the Liang family. With the insatiable greed of the imperial court, although the Wu family still has some family wealth left, according to the imperial court's way of extorting, the Wu family's property will be emptied sooner or later. The merchants of the Qin dynasty, even the official merchants, are among the most insecure merchants in the world. Brother Wu, are you addicted to donating an official position? Liang Zhao couldn't help but tease. Ahem. Wu Yuanhou habitually lowered his voice and said, I am trying to find a way out. To be honest, since the opening of the 5 ports and my father's death, our Wu family and the merchants in Guangzhou have had a hard time, and the court is pressing for money. We merchants can only rob Peter to repair Paul, but this is not a solution. At this rate, both the east and west walls will be torn down sooner or later. I hope you can point me in the right direction for the sake of our fellow countrymen. We can donate, but the donation method in the United States is different from that in the Qin dynasty. However, with a reputation accumulated by generations of Jardine Mason, there is no need to take these crooked paths, Liang Zhao said. The Wu family has a good reputation in the Western business circle, and the reputation of Jardine Mason is accumulated by generations of the Wu family. Its brand value is immeasurable. Even the British were jealous of this. The shameless British finally had a crooked idea to set up a copycat of Jardine Mason, with the purpose of confusing the name and taking advantage of the influence of Jardine Mason. Although Jardine Mason and Jardine Mason are only one letter different, Jardine Mason and Jardine Mason are completely different things. It's a pity that the Wu family had no so-called property rights awareness, which benefited the British. By the time Jardine Mason became bigger, Jardine Mason had completely weakened, and there was nothing they could do about it. What do you mean, brother? Wu Yuanhou knew that Liang Zhao had his own strengths in making a name for himself in a foreign country at such a young age, so he listened carefully to Liang Zhao's words. 3 more chapters completed. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please give me a recommendation ticket. Please support me by reading. Chapter 75, The Fall of the Merchants. Brother Wu, what do you think is the most important thing for a businessman? Liang Zhao opened the cigarette box, took out a Cuban cigar from the cigarette box, cut it and handed it to Wu Yuanhou. Vision, means, reputation, and timing, Wu Yuanhou said slowly, holding the cigar. Let's talk about reputation. Brother Wu, what do you think of the reputation of Jardine Mason? I'm not bragging, but in terms of reputation, the merchants of the 13 Huangs in Guangzhou are the best. Among the merchants of the 13 Huangs in Guangzhou, the one with the best reputation is the Jardine Mason of my Wu family, Wu Yuanhou said very proudly. When my father was alive, the most important thing he valued was reputation. How sad. How hateful. Why is it sad? Why is it hateful? What's said is that my father is trustworthy, but foreigners are not. The Wu family does not expect the foreign merchants who have helped us in the past to repay the Wu family. We only hope that they can return the debts owed to the Wu family. What's hateful is that British businessmen established a Jardine-Matheson company in Hong Kong Island 8 years ago, and opened another Jardine-Matheson company in Shanghai the following year, making profits by using the name of my Jardine-Matheson company. But my Wu family can't do anything to them. Isn't it infuriating? If this continues, within a few decades, people at home and abroad will only know about Jardine-Matheson company but not Jardine-Matheson. It's infuriating, infuriating. Liang Zhao also felt the same way. Just the 3 words Jardine-Matheson are worth 1,000 gold. That's why I said that Brother Wu could do business in America in an upright and above-board manner under the name of Jardine-Matheson, without taking any crooked paths. At this point, Wu Yuanho seemed to remember something and took out a pile of bills from his sleeve. This is the property purchased from American businessmen when my father was alive. Can you help me to look into it? I don't know much about foreigners' property. Liang Zhao took the bills from Wu Yuanho and put them on the table to examine them. Wu Bingjian's investment in America is quite extensive, involving railways, securities, and insurance. Liang Zhao has also done homework on the main railway companies, bank brokers, and insurance companies in the eastern United States, and he knows more or less about them. It is certain that these assets of Wu Bingjian are not junk assets, but are very likely to be high-quality assets. At least Liang Zhao has heard of the names of these railway companies, brokers, and insurance companies, and they are all well-known companies in the East. Among them, the Delaware and Hudson Railroad Company is now a relatively powerful railroad company in the East. Perhaps when Wu Bingjian purchased the shares of the railroad company was just starting out, so the Wu family owns so many shares of the Delaware and Hudson Railroad Company. Mr. Wu really has a unique vision. Liang Zhao put down the bills in his hand and sighed. Wu Yuanho was overjoyed when he heard this. Brother, you mean, these bills are not all waste paper? Wu Yuanho came with the worst plan. According to Liang Zhao, these bills can still be worth some money, which has exceeded his expectations. It is definitely not waste paper, Liang Zhao said very confidently. Brother, can you give me an estimate? Wu Yuanho asked. It's hard to say. A specific evaluation is needed, which will take some time, Liang Zhao said. These assets of Wu Bingjian were purchased more than 10 or 20 years ago, or even earlier, and the specific value is really hard to say. Forgive me for being so rude. Since these bills are still worth some money, I wonder if you are interested in taking over the Wu family's assets in the United States. Wu Yuanho bowed to Liang Zhao and said, Brother Wu, you are too impatient. It is still uncertain how much the Wu family's assets in the United States are worth. If I bid too low, your Wu family will inevitably say that I took advantage of your Wu family in the future. If I bid too high, I will feel uncomfortable when I think about this matter in the future. In the end, I, Liang Zhao, will be embarrassed both inside and outside. It is my fault for not considering it. Please forgive me. Wu Yuanho also felt that his move was too abrupt and apologized to Liang Zhao. Brother Wu is so impatient. I guess you must have encountered some difficulties and need money urgently, Liang Zhao guessed. To be honest, my dear brother, Jardine-Matheson is indeed in trouble and needs a sum of money for turnover. Otherwise, I would not have risked coming to America to take advantage of these overseas assets. My father's purpose in purchasing the assets of American merchants was not to covet the dividends, but to make friends with American merchants and promote the reputation of Jardine-Matheson, Wu Yuanho said with a long sigh. Before the opening of the 5 ports to trade, the Wu family had the privileges granted by the court. If foreign merchants wanted to buy local products from the Qing dynasty, they had to look at the face of Jardine-Matheson. The Wu family could be said to be making money lying down. After the opening of the 5 ports to trade, they had to face the pressure from Fujian merchants, Zhejiang merchants and Lianghui merchants internally, and the pressure from foreign merchants externally. Moreover, according to the Treaty of Nanjing, British merchants have the right to negotiate tariffs, which is undoubtedly a fatal blow to them. I wonder how much silver Brother Wu needs for turnover, Liang Zhao asked. Wu Yuanho shook his head and said, it takes 530,000 taels of silver. Liang Zhao came to San Francisco as a commoner to pan for gold, and it has been less than a year now. Wu Yuanho guessed that Liang Zhao's financial resources were not strong. It was rumored that Liang Zhao was the richest man in San Francisco, but San Francisco was not big or prosperous in Wu Yuanho's eyes. Even if Liang Zhao really had a gold mountain where he could make money, Wu Yuanhe inferred that Liang Zhao's assets were at most a few 100,000 taels of silver. It is true that the Wu family's assets exceeded 24 million taels of silver at its peak, but that was accumulated over 3 generations. This was not because Wu Yuanhe despised Liang Zhao. Liang Zhao had accumulated a net worth of hundreds of thousands of taels of silver in less than a year in San Francisco, which was already very remarkable in his eyes. It was just that Wu Yuanhe still underestimated the wealth of the California gold mines. The gold mines in California were not comparable to those poor mines in China that had been mined for hundreds or even thousands of years. 530,000 taels of silver was nothing to Liang Zhao. Not to mention 530,000 taels of silver. Even 530,000 taels of gold, he could afford it if he gritted his teeth. Liang Zhao had his eyes on the Wu family's Yihang business. In his opinion, Yihang's business was far more valuable than the Wu family's real estate, land, and bank. The upper class in America and Europe also recognized the brand's value of Yihang. As long as the product had Yihang's business name on it, it was synonymous with high-end goods in their eyes, and buying these goods was also very prestigious. Yihang often did this kind of thing, often putting Yihang's business name on the inferior silk, tea, and porcelain they purchased, passing off inferior goods as good ones and making huge profits. Liang Zhao wanted to quickly open up the market in the eastern United States in a short period of time by purchasing Yihang's business name. I wonder if Brother Wu is willing to transfer Yihang's business name, Liang Zhao asked. Are you kidding, brother? Wu Yuanhe was greatly shocked. Liang Zhao's appetite was too big. Although the Wu family is now on the decline, they will definitely not sell the Yihang business, which is the lifeblood of their Wu family. The Yihang business is the root of the Wu family. If it is sold, how can the descendants of the Wu family face their ancestors in the underworld? Wu Yuanhe shook his head and said, besides, I am not the one who makes the decision for the Wu family now. It's not a sale. Liang Zhao smiled. The Yihang business is still your Wu family. I just buy the right to use the Yihang business for 10 years. In this way, your Wu family can also get a sum of money to tide over the difficulties. It's a big trouble. I can't make the decision. I need to go back and discuss it with my brother, Wu Yuanhe said, and at the same time he couldn't help but secretly complain. Can Liang Zhao really come up with so much money? Is he really so kind? What's the matter? Can Brother Wu make the decision now? Liang Zhao stood up and asked. Opening a branch in San Francisco to see if San Francisco is profitable. This is the purpose of my trip, Wu Yuanhe said. Then congratulations, Brother Wu, for coming to the right place. San Francisco is full of gold and it's a good place to make a fortune. We can plan the business matters in the long term. Brother Wu, take a good rest. I will take you for a walk around the neighborhood on another day, Liang Zhao said. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.